Chapter 1149. What? One day. Just one day. In the Tianji palace, Yangshang flew into a rage and threw the sword in his hand down the stairs. The sword rolled and fell at the feet of the messenger. The messenger was so scared that his whole body trembled and his face turned pale. The messenger trembled and said, "Your Majesty, Emperor Shang, Lord Fillet has arrived. He is just outside." "Let him in." "Yes." Outside, a group of golden-armored warriors were lined up in 2 rows. Felix, who was dressed in military attire, walked in calmly. He knew that he had to remain calm. Otherwise he would bring a fatal disaster upon himself. In fact, if it wasn't for his identity as a mid-level deity, Felix wouldn't have been able to escape death upon returning to Tianji City. Fillet knelt on one knee and said, "Sinful General Fillet greets your Majesty." Yangshang's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He said, "Fillet, as the deputy commander, this naval battle was commanded by you. 1. 2 million troops, 7,000 warships, and the entire Shang Empire's navy were annihilated in your hands. In just one day the Qin trader actually landed on the shore and seized Qiping City. Shouldn't you say something?" Fillet kept his head bowed and said, "Your Majesty, although it is said to be a 1,000,000-strong army, most of them are just to make up the numbers. Many of the soldiers boarded the warships for the first time. They can't draw a bow or operate an oar. Moreover, it's a patchwork army. They have no combat power at all. Moreover, Qinyu has transferred away the main force, the Tianjua Corps. Even the generals who are good at naval battles have been transferred away. I have no one to use, so I can only fight in a hurry. The opponent is too strong." "The opponent is too strong?" Yangshang gritted his teeth and said, "Before we descended to the mortal world, Baiming Huan of the Baiming family could break through the Qin Empire's defense line and annihilate their navy. Now we are being annihilated by the opponent. Are we, the gods of the Northern Heaven realm, inferior to the marshal of the Tianji Empire, Baiming Huan?" "Times have changed, Your Majesty," Fillet said in a low voice. "I've read the history books. When Baiming Huan attacked the broken world, the Qin Empire didn't have any naval battleships, and they didn't even pay attention to the navy. But now Lin Muyu has built a navy with all the resources of the empire. They are well equipped with long-range accurate magic crystal cannons and guns that can spit fire. Yes, those weapons are like the weapons of the 7 realms, advanced firearms." "7 realms?" Yangshang's eyes were cold as he said, "What's the point of mentioning the 7 realms now? You are a god with a demonic body. With your abilities, can you travel to the 7 realms and ask for reinforcements? This subordinate is powerless. It's good that you know." Yangshang took a deep breath and said, "Fillet, as the vice-marshal, you are arrogant and look down on everyone. That's why you suffered such a crushing defeat. I'll strip you of your position and cut your salary by half. You don't have any objections, do you?" Fillet's expression didn't look good, but he still cupped his hands and said, "It's my fault, General." Yangshang waved his hand and said, "Get in line." Fillet took a few steps back and stood in front of the group of generals. Even though he was stripped of his position, his status in the kingdom of Shang was still very high. After all, as a demonic god, his status was already above everyone else, and he had committed such a heinous crime of dereliction of duty. But Yangshang still didn't kill him for 2 reasons. First, he couldn't be killed. If Fillet fought back, he might run away and that would leave behind a great threat. Second, Fillet's power was still useful, and Yangshang didn't want to kill him so early. Looking at the officials, Yangshang's gaze was indifferent. "Looks like we have underestimated the rebels as well as Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. Let's discuss what should we do next." Fillet, Han Wen, Zhou Binlong and the other generals kept quiet. They had all seen Lin Muyu's outstanding military skills, and naturally didn't dare to volunteer. If they lost again, it would be a crime on top of a crime. What? Our great Shang's officials are already terrified by mere Qin rebels? Yangshang was a little angry, and the armrests of his dragon throne cracked. "Your Majesty." A strategist walked out from the crowd, standing in the chief strategist's seat. He was about 30 years old, had a refined and handsome appearance, and wore a white robe, giving off a sense of ethereal elegance. He was none other than the chief strategist that Qinyu had recommended to Yangshang, ghost genius Sun Shi. Sun Shi was born with a bitter life. It was said that he had committed a crime against the heavens, and all his relatives had died. However, he was an outstanding strategist, and was one of the few intelligent people in the kingdom of Tianji. "Lord Sun, do you have something to say?" Yangshang asked. Sun Shi nodded and smiled, "Yes." "Speak." Your Majesty, the Qin army is now at its peak, but they have a huge shortage, and that is, they have come from afar and they are lacking in rations, weapons and herbs. Therefore we don't have to attack Shiping City by force. Instead, we can fortify the surrounding walls and clear the fields. With the military forces of Huiyuan Province, Tianji Province and Liaishan Province surrounding them, the Qin army will collapse on its own in less than a month. Easy for you to say. On the side, a strategist in a green robe sneered, Lord Sun Shi, do you think that Lin Muyu is an idiot? Will he just sit and wait for us to fortify the walls and clear the fields instead of attacking the city? The one who spoke was none other than the second strategist, Gong Bujin, Gong Xiangming's cousin, and also a smart and agile person. Sun Shi smiled. This one has never underestimated an opponent, not to mention a famous general like Lin Muyu. What I said about fortifying the walls and clearing the fields is not as simple as it sounds. If we want to trap Lin Muyu, this swimming dragon, then we must dig a deep pool. I have already sent people to secretly inquire and found out that the majority of the Qin army's warships have already begun to return to Broken Cauldron Realm. This trip must be to transport troops, rations and other things, and the warships responsible for the transport will not have too many troops. Therefore, why doesn't Your Majesty send a letter to the pirates on the southern islands, ordering them to intercept the returning warships of the Qin army? The heavy cannons on these warships have already been unloaded, and there are only a dozen or so people on each ship. They basically have no fighting power. The pirates on the southern islands are enough to destroy this huge Qin fleet. What does Your Majesty think? Yang Shang narrowed his eyes and smiled. Cunning? You smart people are too cunning. Ah, but I like it. As for the matter of the letter, Lord Sun Shi can write it yourself and I will stamp it with my seal. Sun Shi bowed his head and smiled, continuing, this is only the first step of this one strategy. There is still a second and third step. Lord, please speak. Yang Shang had already begun to regretting that he had underestimated this group of strategists at the start of the war. He should have used their suggestions more. Sun Shi smiled faintly and said, the first step is to cut off the Qin traders' retreat, and the second step is to rely on Marshal Qinyu to complete. What do you mean? Sun Shi chuckled. I found out that in the Battle of the East Sea, Lin Muyu captured hundreds of thousands of our soldiers. In order to buy people's hearts, Lin Muyu released these surrendered soldiers and gave them travel expenses to go home to farm. Lin Muyu's intention to steal the world is clear, but this has also sown the seeds of disaster for himself. Most of these surrendered soldiers are from the Huiyuan province, and Marshal Qinyu's army is stationed in the Huiyuan province. Your Majesty can order the marshal to gather these surrendered soldiers and order them to immediately return to Shiping City, falsely claiming that their homes have been burned down and they have nowhere to go. They are willing to surrender to the Qin army. In this way, as long as Lin Muyu keeps this group of people, we can attack at any time and destroy the granaries and equipment in Shiping City, causing chaos in the Qin army. Wonderful. Really wonderful. Fillet also clapped his hands and laughed. Yang Shang's face was full of joy as he said, it is indeed a wonderful plan. Then what about Lord Sun Shi's third step? The third step. Sun Shi smiled faintly and said, as everyone knows, Lin Muyu's Baizhe mercenaries are on good terms with the demon emperor Nujiang in the Forest of No Return. I believe that if nothing unexpected happens, Lin Muyu will definitely send people to the Forest of No Return to seek help from the demon race. This is also our chance. While setting up ambushes and killing the demon race along the way, we can change into their armor and attack Shiping City under the guise of the demon race. At the same time, Longshi's 300,000 Black Lava army in the southern Liaishan province, Marshal Qinyu's 200,000 Tianju army in the Huiyuan province, Tianji Empire's 200,000 Thunder Soul army in the north, and Miss Dora's 50,000 Divine Feathers battalion will attack together. Will Lin Muyu's 300,000 troops be enough for us to kill? Yang Shang couldn't help but laugh, his eyes shining brightly. He stood up and said with a smile, Lord Sun Shi's words are really enlightening. Someone appoint Lord Sun Shi as the commander-in-chief and military advisor. Act according to plan. Yes, Your Majesty. Shiping Prefecture, in the courtyard of the rear hall, Lin Muyu sat on a huge cyan rock. Lulu's image appeared on the scout bee in his hand. Did you get any news? He asked. Lulu shook her head. No, Qinji Palace is heavily guarded. A group of very strong people are guarding the house and the door. My scout bee can't get in at all. Many of them have been cut in half by a sword, so I can't get any news. Then continue to deliver potatoes. Okay, big brother, but... Lulu looked at him with watery eyes and said, but there hasn't been any sunlight for more than 2 months. Lulu doesn't have enough energy to produce sunlight, so our potato garden lacks sunlight to photosynthesize. We can't continue to produce potatoes. The potatoes that Lulu can bring Big Brother will also be greatly reduced. Big Brother, you better make more preparations. Yes, I understand. Lin Muyu frowned and said, Lulu, you go rest. I should also go discuss some matters. Okay. Lin Muyu looked up at the sky and frowned again. She didn't know when the heavens opened their eyes and gave the shattered cauldron realm a god that represented the righteous energy of heaven and earth. At this time, above the heaven realm, as if it was at the edge of the universe, auspicious clouds lingered and spiritual light slowly gathered. A flat mountain peak that reached into the clouds was illuminated by auspicious light, giving people an indescribable feeling of comfort. Gold, the origin of the righteous energy of heaven and earth in the six realms. Whoosh! A beam of light that soared into the sky landed on Gold and slowly gathered into the appearance of a person. He had white hair and a youthful face. He had an outstanding celestial appearance and a pair of eyes filled with pity as he looked at the distant six realms. It was Heaven Emperor Fuxi, also the eldest disciple of ancestor god Pangu. Six realms, it's been a long time. Fuxi sighed and said, I didn't expect you to become like this. Chapter 1150. BZZZ. The energy of the laws above the metals suddenly trembled, and it was as if the heavens and the earth had changed color. In next to no time, 4 rays of light poured down in succession behind Fuxi, and they transformed into human figures. There were 2 men and 2 women, and they were precisely Fuxi's 4 disciples. They respectively represented the sun, moon, and stars, Fanyang, Miue, Wanxing, and Haochen. You're here? Yes, we await Master's orders. The 4 knelt on the ground. The eldest disciple, Fanyang, looked upright and fierce. Master, the metal has been abandoned, why have we come here? To rebuild the metal. Fuxi smiled. How long have you 4 been cultivating with me in the sky beyond heaven? About 20,000 years. Miue blinked. She was extremely beautiful, as if her every frown and smile could change the color of the world. It's been 20,000 years. Fuxi smiled and said, now we will fight side by side again. Fight? Wanxing was startled. Yes, fight. Fuxi looked up at the void above the metal and said, the demonic world's violence and evil energy are constantly eroding the 6 realms, and the divine beast Shiming has already been assimilated. It roams the universe, wreaking havoc and wreaking havoc. The metal is the source of righteousness between heaven and earth, so we must protect it and not let Shiming devour it. Miue nodded. Disciple is willing to protect the metal with Master. Fuxi still stood at the edge of the metal, looking at the 6 worlds far away. Come here. The 4 disciples walked over in unison. What do you see? Fuxi asked. Nothing. Fanyang shook his head. Miue pursed her lips, not saying a word. Wanxing said innocently, Master, I can see that the 6 worlds are in chaos. Of the 6 worlds, only one is left, but it's being devoured by the blood clouds. It seems like someone is using his life to maintain the current situation. That's right, that's the 8 Desolation domain, our former home. The person who's holding on is called the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor, the ruler of East Heaven, and also the sworn brother of your junior brother. Youngest brother's sworn brother? Miue was stunned and said, Master, did you really accept a 5th disciple? Yes, his name is Lin Muyu, one of the 2 great marshals of the Eastern Heaven realm. I have already imparted the invisible elephant art to him a long time ago, but he is currently in the shattered cauldron realm and has lost his divine power. He is currently engaged in a mortal war, and his opponent is highly likely to transform into a demon god. Ah. Miue was a girl who was protective of her own. She gritted her teeth and said, will those fiend celestials kill junior brother? No, I won't allow little junior brother to be killed. Master, please allow me to go to the shattered cauldron realm and help little junior brother. No. Why, Master? Miue had a puzzled look on her face. Fuxi said majestically, because the heavenly punishment is a punishment for all the gods in the 6 realms. It is also a tribulation that Lin Muyu is destined to face. It is a tribulation that cannot be avoided, and no one can help him. This tribulation can only be resolved by himself. Whether it is life or death, it is his fate that he must bear alone. Furthermore, we still have our own matters to attend to. Miue pursed her red lips and murmured, yes, disciple obeys. Master, then what is our matter? Our matter is about to come. Fuxi looked towards the sky and saw the golden light shining brightly. Dark clouds rolled in the sky and thunder rumbled. Rays of azure light rolled in the clouds. Soon, a huge creature swayed its huge body and rushed out of the clouds. It was the demonized divine beast Mingshi. Its bloody mouth was big enough to swallow the heaven and earth. After it opened its mouth, lightning flashed and it pounced towards Jin. Just in time. Fuxi raised his hand and pulled out an ancient and heavy longsword from his back. It was the Infinite Sword, a first-tier divine artifact that had followed Fuxi for many years. The Infinite Sword glowed with a blue light, and as Fuxi swung it, it immediately turned into a blue beam that shot into the sky and blasted towards the Mingshi in the sky. Boom! The light in the sky exploded. After being struck by the sword, the divine beast Mingshi actually roared angrily. It was only injured but not killed. It opened its huge mouth and began to absorb the energy. Suddenly the whole of Jin City was roaring. Evil creature! Fuxi shouted in a low voice. Rays of golden light flew out from under his feet. He raised his palm and shouted, "All things in the world listen to my command." Suddenly Gold's body surged with a righteous aura. It was like a heavy hammer that struck the divine beast Dark Servant, causing it to howl in pain and retreat. However, its huge tail swept toward Gold. It was bent on destroying Gold. Get into formation, 5 elements Great Void Formation. Fuxi shouted. The 4 disciples quickly flew into the sky. Divine power surged from their bodies, and together with Fuxi, they formed a mighty Great Void Formation. Suddenly, a powerful righteous aura swept out, and the divine beast Mingshi was forced to retreat again and again. It wagged its tail and hid in the blood clouds. The blood clouds gradually dispersed, and the Mingshi was nowhere to be seen. It will come again. Fuxi's eyes were filled with worry. He said, I didn't expect a mere Mingshi to become so powerful after absorbing such a large amount of demonic aura. Mei Yu's brows furrowed slightly. Teacher, has the devil realm really become so powerful? Yes. Fuxi's gaze was calm. He said, the ancient supreme demon god Chu Xingyun has awakened from his slumber, and it feels like he has broken free from the seal. However, we should thank the 7 luminaries demon emperor. If it wasn't for him blocking the first wave of demonic aura from Chu Xingyun and supporting the 8 wastelands realm's last bit of righteous aura, Jin would have been destroyed long ago. We would have come in vain and we wouldn't have been able to save the 6 realms. Then? Miue's expression was solemn. Are we just going to wait here and do nothing? Yes, we can only wait for the Mahayana heavenly path to form, and wait for the gods to awaken. The Mahayana heavenly path. Yes, that is the supreme heavenly path, the heavenly path that transcends the 6 realms. In other words, as long as he doesn't comprehend the Mahayana heavenly path, he will be in great danger in the mortal realm? Miue still couldn't forget about helping her junior brother in the mortal realm. Fuxi didn't say yes nor did he say no. He just slowly sat on the broken rock at the edge of Jin, like an old man fishing. He quietly watched the living beings of the 6 realms, watched them grow old and die, and watched the impermanence of life. Miue also hugged her knees and sat next to her master. She said, Master, what kind of person is little junior brother? If he ascends and becomes the Mahayana heavenly path in the future, what will he be like? Fuxi said indifferently, that child is extraordinarily talented. Perhaps in the future, his cultivation will be above the 4 of you. Hao Qin, who had been silent all this while, couldn't help but smile. In that case, I really want to meet this little junior brother. Miue also smiled. She said, yes, I also want to know what little junior brother is like. Fuxi said, wait quietly. He will definitely obtain the Mahayana heavenly path's Dharmakaya and ascend to become a god again. The 4 of you must cultivate and rest well. Shi Ming's recovery ability is extremely strong, and he will definitely come again in less than 2 hours. We must protect Gold or the pure land of ultimate bliss will also be shaken. Do you understand? Yes. Miue pouted. Since Jin is so important, why didn't ancestor god Pangu come personally? Fuxi glared at her. Little girl, don't talk nonsense. Miue stuck out her tongue. I know this. There is no need to use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. Fuxi couldn't be bothered to talk to her anymore. He continued to look at the 6 realms and listen to the voices of the living beings. On the 11th of December, it was still snowing heavily. Yu's letter flew to Shiping Prefecture and it was the afternoon meeting time. After opening Yu's letter and taking a look, Lin Muyu quietly put the letter on the table and said, Brother Feng, you should also take a look. Feng Jixing glanced at it and flew into a rage. Damn it. Do the pirates of the South Sea Islands want to die? They even dare to touch the navy of our Qin Empire. Do they not want to live? Lin Muyu frowned. It is my lack of consideration. If I had known earlier, I would have sent the heavenly Xingtian army to escort the warships. What happened? Qinin asked. Feng Jixing replied respectfully, Your Highness, our returning warship was attacked by more than 10 pirates from the South Sea archipelago a day ago. We lost nearly 400 ships and a large amount of our belongings were looted. Bailey Tsang was injured and fought to the death to drive away the pirates. Now our warship is on its way back. Pirates? Qin gritted her teeth. What is going on? Didn't our scouts say that the pirates of the South Sea Islands would not participate in the war? They have defected. Lin Muyu said, It must be Yangshang's doing. Without Yangshang behind the scenes, the pirates of the South Sea would not have the guts to attack our warships. Wei Chou said, Since the Pirate Legion has made a move, then we cannot endure it. Darren, please allow this subordinate to lead the heavenly Xingtian army and a fleet to the South Sea and completely destroy these pirates. No. Lin Muyu waved her hand and said, Can't you see that this is Yangshang's trick? His intention is to distract us and divert our forces to attack the Southern Sea archipelago, which will take us at least a month. Besides, we don't know the terrain of the Southern Sea archipelago at all. The fleet might be ambushed if they go there, and the Xingtian Heavenly Army is afraid of the crossbow bolts on the ground, so we can't let them take this risk. Yes. Feng Jixing nodded and said, As long as we divert our forces, Yangshang's goal will be achieved. After that, Shiping City will become the target of attack. Lin Muyu said with a solemn expression, Qinyu is in the Huiyuan province, which is thousands of miles away from Tianji City. Does Yangshang have someone by his side who is advising him? Otherwise, with Yangshang's intelligence, he may not have come up with such an idea. Qian Feng cupped his fists and said, Lin General, Yangshang has a think tank under him. The chief strategist Sun Shi, the second strategist Gong Bujin, and Gong Xiangming's junior brother Zhou Ziang are all smart people. It seems that Yangshang has suffered a great loss at sea this time and finally feels that he needs the power of the think tank to outsmart him. Damn, we have a new opponent, Lin Muyu pondered and said, Marshal Ding Shi, I will give you a new mission. Please say it, Lin General. I will send 10 Dragon Knights to escort you to the South Sea Islands, find the leader of the pirate group, and bribe them with a lot of money to attack the port of Liaishan province, divide the celestial pole land with us and allow them to be kings. Kings. Ding Shi was stunned. That's right, these pirates only want money and women. They've never thought about power and status. We might as well make use of this. You can promise the Great Qin Empire that we can send troops to help them. Bring my letter to the Alliance and I'm sure that there's an 80% chance of success. This? Ding Shi pursed his lips and said, If it doesn't work, won't my life be over? How can it be? Sidu-san will go with you. Even if it doesn't work, you can fly out on the giant dragon. The pirates of the South Sea Islands are all rookies and weak chickens. With the protection of 10 Dragon Knights, what is there to be afraid of? Lin General is planning to rely on 11 people to recover the pirate group that just attacked us? Not only 11 people but also bring a few big boxes of gold, silver and jewelry. Carry as much as the giant dragon can carry. Don't be stingy with your belongings. Yes. Ding Shi cupped his fists and said, Marshal, it would be good if you could be so generous when you pay the troops. Marshal Ding, you are a little emotional. I am not, I am going. Chapter 1151. On the morning of the 14th, at daybreak, the reports from the 4 armies arrived at Shiping Prefecture. Wei Chou led 30,000 troops and took down Jiayuan Prefecture in half a day. Xiang Yu led 20,000 garrison troops and took down Shangchong Prefecture in 1 day. Tang Jin led 30,000 troops and took down Xiezhong Prefecture in 1 day. And for the most remote Nanlu County, a letter was sent over in the afternoon. Feng Jixing personally led 10,000 cavalry and similarly took down this county city. The Shang Empire actually gave up on these 4 prefectures. After all, they were remote and it was inconvenient to deploy the troops. Moreover, they were all prefectures in Xishan province. Even if they wanted to defend them, they couldn't. In the meeting hall, the glass lamp shone brightly. Lin Muyu read through the battle reports one by one and then handed them to Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi beside him. He stood up and his finger moved across the map of Xishan province, marking the positions of the 4 major prefectures. Qin Yin asked suspiciously, Big brother, why are you so depressed when the 4 armies are invincible? Lin Muyu smiled, even though we have taken down 4 important towns, it also means that our troops are no longer concentrated. It is very easy for us to be defeated one by one. This is extremely disadvantageous for us. Yes. Su Jiantao said, We are facing enemies on 3 sides and our military strength has to be doubled to ensure there is no worry. Now, we only have 300,000 troops but we have to face enemies 3 times our number. Moreover, the magic crystal cannons have been severely damaged and the ammunition reserves are less than 10 to 20% of what we had when we came. Once the war starts, we have no chance of winning. Qian Feng smiled slightly. If we include the possible disturbances from the sea, Shiping City can be said to be a battlefield on all sides. There are strong enemies on all sides and it is equivalent to sending ourselves into someone else's trap. The most important thing is still food. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, "Pass down the order. Order General Feng, Wei Chou, Xiang Yu and Tang Zhen to immediately escort most of the rations in the prefectures to Shiping City. Only 1,000 troops will be left in each prefecture city. Appoint a new prefect and let the locals guard the prefectures to minimize our losses." Yes. At this time, Qinin put down the last letter and said, "Before the second batch of troops arrive, I'm afraid that even if we were to defend West Mountain Province, it would be somewhat stretched. Yes, this is our current situation." Lin Muyu furrowed her brows and said, "The crux of the situation is that the terrain of Xishan Province is very flat, it is a plain, there is no place to defend, the border passes are also useless, we can only be in a passive position." Qin Xiaoli's eyes lit up. "The marshal must have an idea, right?" Haha, Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile as she said, "In terms of strategic position, we currently have 3 directions to attack. The first is the north, but the north is the Tianji Province, Yangshang's lair. Even if we attack the Tianji Province, we'll suffer great losses. The other direction is the east, but Qinyu is guarding there. It's best not to provoke that crafty fellow. Then the only option left is the south. The south is the original territory of the Darkstone Empire, mainly guarded by Longshi's 300,000 Darkstone army. These 300,000 troops are basically the original troops of the Darkstone Empire, so their combat strength can only be considered average. As long as we attack the Lisan Province, it'll be equivalent to removing the threat from the south. With the Lisan Province as our backing, it won't be a problem for us to strategically extend our territory to the north and east." "The marshal wants to take down Lisan Province?" Qian Feng was somewhat stunned. He didn't think that Lin Muyu would take this step. "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded. Longshi was originally the leader of the Thunder Blaze sect of the Blackstone Empire. Although his cultivation is unfathomable, his intelligence is only average. Yangshang made a mistake by letting Longshi lead the 300,000 soldiers. Since this is the case, we should cherish this rare opportunity. Qian Feng muttered. "Even so, our military strength is limited. If we attack Lisan Province, it means that we have to divide our forces. At least 150,000 soldiers are needed to defend Shiping City. After such a long time, only 150,000 soldiers are left to attack Lisan Province. Does the marshal think that 150,000 soldiers can defeat Longshi's 300,000 Blackstone soldiers?" "Where there is a will, there is a will." Lin Muyu said, "Pass down my order. The 3 armies are to rest and reorganize. Sister Chu Yao, the elixir department is to quickly treat the wounded soldiers. How many of the wounded soldiers can recover in half a month?" Chu Yao was startled. She bit her red lips and said, "Some of the injuries are too serious and won't be able to recover in half a year. Those with light injuries can go to war. About half of the wounded soldiers can recover, but many of them have frostbite and won't recover in a short period of time. Do you really want to start a second war immediately?" "Yes, if our soldiers have frostbite, the enemy soldiers will also have frostbite. Therefore we must fight fast and not give the enemy too much time to prepare." Lin Muyu thought for a while and said, "I will personally lead the army to attack Lisan Province. The defense of Xishan Province will be handed over to General Feng. When the time comes, leave most of the wounded soldiers to defend Xishan Province. The rest of the elite soldiers will attack. In addition, I will bring along the Winged People, the Giant Flying Snakes, the Xingtian Heavenly Army, and the Dragon Cavalry Regiment." Qin Xiaoli was stunned. "But the marshal, Shiping City will have no air power. What should we do if the Shang Army's Dragon Cavalry Regiment descends from the sky?" "Don't worry." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "I brought back a few wind-type raw stones from the 64 domains. They can be used to launch powerful wind saws. They can't be used when the warships are bumpy at sea. Now they can be used. I will ask Senior Luo Tianji to find a suitable place to place the raw stones and form a protective boundary over the entire Shiping City. When the time comes, the Dragon Cavalry Regiment will be sent to their deaths." Qin Xiaoli couldn't help but smile. The marshal already has an idea. Go back and prepare. We will set off in half a month. Yes. 3 days later, Feng Jixing, Tang Zhen, Xiangyu, and Wei Chou returned to Shiping City with a large amount of rations. There were almost 2 million dawn of rations. This way they would have enough rations for the expedition to the south. They would not have to worry about the rear. 18th day, Tianji Palace. Letters of military intelligence flew to Emperor Shang Yangshang and piled up on his table. There were 2 extra seats beside the dragon table. 2 strategists were helping Yangshang to look through the military intelligence. One was Sun Shi and the other was Zhou Ziang, Gong Shangming's junior. In the main hall, the civil and military officials stood silently in their seats, motionless. Yangshang, on the other hand, leaned on the dragon throne and rubbed his temples. Battles in the heaven realm had never been so complicated, and they had never considered the weather or the geography. A large group of gods would just fly over and beat them up. Whoever was stronger would win. How was it like a battle between mortals? There were many factors that had to be considered, and it was simply too troublesome. Sun Shi flipped through the military intelligence and said in a low voice, "Your Majesty, Jiaoyuan Prefecture and Shangchong Prefecture have been conquered. Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, and the others have gathered a large amount of rations from various prefectures. They have already been sent to Shiping City. Lin Muyu and Jingyuan Merchant Association have made many transactions regarding rations and armaments." Jingyuan Merchant Association. Yangshang narrowed his eyes and said, "They must have eaten a bear's heart and a leopard's gall. They actually dare to trade with the enemy? These merchants only care about profit. They are just some mediocre people. Are we going to attack Jingyuan Merchant Association?" Sun Shi's eyes were filled with ruthlessness. He said, "Jingyuan Merchant Association has a branch in Tianji City. There are about 500 people. Capture them all and behead them in public." Yangshang said casually. He did not take the lives of 500 people seriously. "Yes, I will order people to carry it out." Sun Shi continued to flip through the military intelligence. Suddenly, he picked up one of them and said, "Your Majesty, Marshal Qin Yu sent a memorial from Huiyuan Province." "Read it?" "Yes." Sun Shi opened the memorial and said, "Respectfully, Your Majesty, your subject Qin Yu has stationed troops in Huiyuan Province to guard a corner in the east. I hope Your Majesty will investigate carefully. Recently, the Qin army has been preparing rations and fodder. Lin Muyu must have a new target to attack. In my humble opinion, Tianji Province and Huiyuan Province are not on the list of targets to attack. Tianji Province is defended by a strong military force and it is difficult for the Qin thieves to conquer it. Huiyuan Province is a land of war, so there is no need to attack it. Therefore, Lin Muyu will definitely attack the Lisan Province in the south. I hope Your Majesty can make a plan early. Although Commander Longxi of the Black Lava Army is brave and fierce, but Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, Chen Feng and the others are all intelligent people. I beg Your Majesty to send an advisor to Lisan Province at night to assist Commander Longxi to protect Lisan Province." "That's all?" Yangshang opened his eyes. "Yes, that's all." "What does Lord Sun Shi think?" Yangshang asked. Sun Shi's eyes were solemn as he said, "Marshal Qin Yu's considerations are very thorough. Lin Muyu is indeed the most likely to attack Lisan Province, and Lord Longxi is indeed not as intelligent as Lin Muyu. Then let's do as you say. Is that advisor willing to go to Lisan Province to make a contribution?" Sun Shi was silent. Gong Bujin hid among the civil officials, his expression unchanged. Only Zhou Ziang bowed his head and said, "Since none of you are willing to meet this Lin Muyu, then I, Zhou Ziang, will go." Yangshang couldn't help but smile. It would be best if Lord Ziang goes, but your senior apprentice brother Gong Shangming was defeated by Lin Muyu. What does Lord Ziang think of his chances? Heaven disposes, but man disposes. How can we know who is stronger if we don't compete? Zhou Ziang raised his head. Even though he had a refined and delicate appearance, he was the same as Gong Shangming. Between his brows, there was an aura of a genius that could seize the heavens and earth. Yangshang smiled, "That would be best. We will immediately promote you to the position of advisor of the Central Protectorate Army, with the rank of Major Second Rank. We will also send 5 Dragon Knights to escort you to Lisan Province. What do you think?" "Thank you, Your Majesty." Zhou Ziang turned and left. After a while, Yangshang looked at Sun Shi and said, "Lord Sun, what do you think of Zhou Ziang's chances?" Sun Shi's expression was calm as he said, "Lord Zhou Ziang is a natural genius. If he calmly confronts Lin Muyu, he will definitely not be at a disadvantage. Add to that Lord Longxi's strength, and it is very likely that he will defeat Lin Muyu. This subject's only worry is that Lord Zhou Xiang is too eager to make a contribution and will instead become a fatal weakness for Lin Muyu. Yang Shang. Chapter 1152. On the 19th day the snow stopped, but the sun still couldn't be seen. In the backyard of Shiping Prefecture, Lin Muyu accompanied Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Chu Yao, and Feng Jixing to eat the spiritual fire department's big pot of rice, a bowl of vegetable soup and 2 meat pies. Moreover, this kind of meat pies were only minced meat mixed with vegetable leaves. The taste was indescribably strange, but it was considered good to fill one's stomach when there was a shortage of food. After eating the last mouthful of meat pies, Lin Muyu looked at the sky outside and said, "It's been 7 or 8 days. Why hasn't Ding Shi come back yet? Is he detained? Even if he is detained, at least Sidu Sun can fight his way out of the encirclement and report." Feng Jixing said, "Who knows?" At this moment there was the sound of hurried footsteps outside. Wei Chou said excitedly, "General Ding Shi is back. Please come in." Yes. In the front hall, Ding Shi came in with a helmet in his arms, his face full of smiles. "Greetings, Your Highness, greetings, Lin General." He knelt on one knee and saluted. "You may rise, General Ding Shi," Qin Yin said with a smile. "It seems that Ding Shuai has completed his task." Lin Muyu said with a smile. "Your subordinate has not failed his mission. The pirates of the southern islands have agreed to send troops, but they have a condition." "Oh, what condition?" Ding Shi hesitated for a few seconds and said, "They will attack the seaport of Liaishan province in 10 days, but they will not attack Qianshan City. Instead, they will wait for us to take Qianshan City and give them the city, and we will give them 100,000 caddies of gold in succession. Otherwise the deal will not continue." "How greedy," Feng Jixing said. "Yes, pirates are greedy." Ding Shi's eyes lit up and he said with a smile, "And if I'm right, once these pirates get Mount Qianshan City, they will plunder wantonly, rob money and women, return to the sea with the money and women, and continue to live like emperors in the archipelago. They want Mount Qianshan City not to occupy it, but to covet the treasures it has accumulated for thousands of years." "Thieves will always be thieves." Feng Jixing laughed. Are you going to agree to their conditions?" "Why wouldn't they agree? As long as they agree to attack from the west coast, it'll be fine. At the very least, they'll be able to restrain a portion of Longshi's forces." "What about Thousand Mountain City? Should we give it to them?" "Give it? You must give it to the Qin Empire. You will do what you say." Lin Muyu's eyes were filled with ridicule. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and said, "Mu, what are you up to?" "I'm not selling medicine. It's just that these pirates want it, so we'll satisfy them. It's a deal anyway." Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. "Ding Shuai, how many people do they have? How many ships?" Ding Shi pondered and said, "As far as I know, there are more than 3,000 ships in the archipelago. As for the number of people, the total number is more than 100,000. They have been harassing the coastal villages of the Blackstone Empire and the Tianji Empire for a living. In recent years they have often harassed the Lingkong and Lingdong provinces of our country. These people are like cancer to the celestial pole continent and the shattered cauldron world." Lin Muyu gently stroked the hilt of the Shenyuan sword at her waist with her left hand, pondering in silence. "Mu, what are you thinking?" Tang Xiaoxi asked. Feng Jixing smiled faintly and said, "He's ready to kill." "Every time you strokes the hilt of the sword, it means that he's about to make a decision that ordinary people don't dare to make, right?" Feng Jixing asked with a smile. Lin Muyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Brother Feng, you're really observant." "That's right, I want to take this opportunity to eliminate these pirates. There's no benevolence to speak of with this group of scum. We'll pretend to agree to their conditions and let them enter Mount Qianshan. Then we'll ambush 2 elite troops to cut off their retreat and block these pirates in Mount Qianshan. If they're willing to surrender, we'll put them in the prison camp. If they're unwilling, we'll kill them on the spot. Anyway, sooner or later, Mount Qianshan province will be our territory." "I agree. We'll kill many birds with one stone." Chen Feng nodded. Qin Yin smiled faintly. "I agree too." "Then it's decided." Lin Muyu thought for a while and said, "Let's keep the original plan unchanged. When we attack Mount Qianshan province, the pirates will also launch an attack on the harbor. We'll attack from the west and north together. Let's see how Longxi can resist." Yes. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. It was the new year. On the 2nd of January, it was snowing heavily. In the past half a month, Si Kongyao had sent out the Tianji sect summon order. Thousands of people had already gathered in Shiping City. Baizé mercenary summon order had also been sent out a long time ago. An endless stream of Baizé mercenaries gathered from all directions. With Si Kongyao and Liu Bai's powerful rallying power, they actually managed to summon close to 100,000 people in half a month. This also meant that Lin Muyu could mobilize a total of 250,000 troops this time. Early in the morning, the war drums sounded. 250,000 troops set off from Shiping City in an endless stream, heading towards Mount Qianshan province. Lin Muyu personally led the troops that would accompany them to battle. Qianfeng, Weiqiu, Su Jiantao, Qin Yong, Qin Yan, Si Kongyao, and Liu Bai were among them. Feng Jixing, Xiangyu, and Qin Xiaoli were left behind to guard Shiping City. Feng Jixing's literary and military talents could be counted on one's fingers. It was reassuring to let him guard Shiping City. Fortunately, the snow had stopped for nearly half a month. The snow on the ground had long melted. It was not difficult to transport the magic crystal cannons and other supplies. Moreover, Si Kongyao and Liu Bai had already built sturdy official roads when they were guarding Shiping City. It was not difficult for them to travel to Mount Qianshan province. 3 days later, the army arrived at the northern pass of Mount Qianshan province. The army was exhausted from the march. Lin Muyu ordered the 3 armies to set up camp 5 kilometers outside the pass. The attack would begin at dawn the next day. At dusk, the flames of the oil lamps flickered in the cold wind. Outside the tent, the northern wind howled. The weather was so cold that everyone was shivering. A huge map was spread out on the table in the commander's tent. On the map, the northern pass was marked in red. Weiqiu placed his hand on the hilt of his sword and said, "The northern pass is the only way from Xishan province to Mount Qianshan province. It is also one of the military's most important towns. The pass is very sturdy and has a height of 20 meters. It is said that Longxi has sent General Lu Liang to guard the northern pass. There are nearly 100,000 troops under his command. Moreover, Qianshan City is 200 kilometers south of the northern pass. The cavalry can arrive in half a day. Once we begin to attack the northern pass, it will mean that we have officially begun to clash with Longxi's army." "Will Longxi send his main force to the northern pass?" Lin Muyu asked. Weiqiu smiled. "It was originally very likely, but now it is impossible. Since this morning, the hundreds of thousands of pirates on the islands have begun to attack the seaports of Mount Qianshan province. Longxi can't even take care of himself. How can he send his main force to the northern pass?" "I don't think so," Lin Muyu said lightly. "Don't you smell something?" "Smell?" Weiqiu and Su Jiantao were shocked. Qianfeng smiled. "I have the same premonition as Marshal. Something will definitely happen tonight." "Are they going to attack the camp?" Weiqiu was shocked. Lin Muyu nodded. "That's right. After we arrived, the northern gate was completely silent. We didn't even see a single cavalry scout. This can only mean that they knew we were coming and were prepared. If I were the defending general, I would also take advantage of the fact that our army is exhausted from the long journey to attack the camp. But there are only 100,000 soldiers in the northern pass. Those who are good at using troops must be good at using surprise." Lin Muyu frowned. "Forget it. Order the 3 armies to strengthen their vigilance. Weiqiu, you lead 20,000 cavalrymen of the Longdan army camp to ambush in the jungle on the right side of the camp. Situ Sen, order the artillery battalion to prepare all the magic crystal cannons. Aim at the front of the camp and prepare to bombard. Qianfeng, order the armor demon battalion. Once the enemy attacks, the armor demons will be the first line of defense." "Yes." Everyone cupped their fists together and then received Lin Muyu's arrow of command. After a while, Lin Muyu raised her head and looked at Ding Shi. "Our dragon riders brought back military reports. Why does it seem like the pirates aren't making any big movements?" "It's quiet. Marshal, don't worry. There will definitely be movements." "Is Marshal Ding sure these pirates won't rebel? After all, they only recognize money." "They won't." Ding Shi smiled faintly. "I have already signed the contract. No matter what price anyone offers, my army is willing to pay 3 times the price." "Will they believe you?" "Yes." When I told them that they were willing to pay 3 times the price, they looked very distressed. It was as if they were selling their wives. Lin Muyu pursed her lips and was speechless. At the same time, at the western port of Thousand Mountain City, a Black Lava Army cavalry regiment arrived at the port. On the ocean there was a dense group of pirate warships. Zhou Ziang, who was dressed like a scholar, entered the meeting hall of the port. The other party was a group of pirates with mustaches. Each of them looked fierce. If not for the group of Black Lava Army generals behind Zhou Ziang, he would have lost in terms of momentum. It's decided. Zhou Ziang pushed the document forward. As long as your alliance is willing to attack the Qin army from the sea, I am willing to offer you 50,000 top-quality beauties, 300,000 kilograms of gold and 1 million bolts of cloud brocade. Lord Military Advisor is really generous. With such sincerity we have no choice but to cooperate. The pirate leader squinted his eyes and kept the document with Zhou Ziang's signature. Military Advisor, please go back and report. Tomorrow morning we will go ashore and attack the Qin army from the side. No, tomorrow morning is too late. I want you to attack through the night. Why can't I? Alright, why can't I? The pirate leader smiled. Then it's a deal. Good. Zhou Ziang exited the meeting hall and immediately said to the generals on both sides. Release the letter and tell Lord Longxi that the plan is successful. Immediately launch an attack and use the entire army to attack the Qin army. This is our only chance. Otherwise, in a protracted battle, we will not be a match for the elites of the Qin army. We must use speed to catch Lin Muyu off guard. Yes, military advisor. Zhou Ziang looked coldly at the snow outside. He tightened the belt of his cloak and mounted his horse. Let's go. We will rush to the battlefield at the northern pass. Now, the battle there should have already started. Chapter 1153. Bang! The bluish-purple light from the explosion of the magic crystal cannons lit up half of the sky. Even the ground shook violently. The night was illuminated and the flags of the kingdom of Shang could be faintly seen among the tiny snowflakes. The Black Lava Army had arrived and they were flying the flag of Vanguard General Lu Liang. Lu Liang? I'm afraid it won't be bright today. Under the illumination of the fire, Qian Feng pulled out his sword and shouted in a low voice, Armor Demon Camp, Cavalry Camp, prepare for defense. Behind him, rows of high-level demons were already waiting in a square formation. Additionally, there were armored demons carrying war horses and wearing armors. The opponent could not be underestimated. Although the Black Lava Army had been reorganized, there were 5,000 gods from the original Heaven Realm. Most of their strength was in the Heaven Realm or the Holy Domain. They were much stronger than ordinary soldiers. They were definitely not some useless people that could be easily defeated. Moreover, the land battle was different from the sea battle. The strength of the practitioners could be displayed more comprehensively. However, a group of armored demons roared ferociously and fearlessly looked at the Black Lava Army in the distance. Beside Qian Feng's formation was Lin Muyu's Longdan Army Camp formation. He was dressed in a white robe and stood in the wind and snow. He said to Fengxi beside him, protect with shields. Once the Black Lava Army enters 300 meters, start shooting. We must prevent the Black Lava Army from getting close. If they rush over, change to the spear formation to defend. Continue and maintain the firepower of the artillery camp. Yes, Lin General. Fengxi raised the flag. At this moment, bang 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 sounds of cannons were heard. Nearly 100 magic crystal cannons continuously bombarded the battlefield in the distance. The Black Lava Army's vanguard cavalry camp suffered heavy losses. However, there were many of them and the Longdan Army camp did not have many cannons. Hence, they had to hold back and let the opponent get closer before attacking. The light from the magic crystal cannons illuminated the entire battlefield as if it was daytime. The Black Lava Army charged forward as if they had gone mad. They had no way to retreat. The law enforcement camp was just below the northern pass. Anyone who retreated would be shot to death without mercy. The densely packed cavalry charged through the smoke of the magic crystal cannons and charged forward. At this moment, the sound of the Type 95 firing rang out. Tongues of fire spat out and all of them were aimed at the target. 222. 3 consecutive sounds rang out, and the cavalry in the distance rolled on the ground along with their horses. The former obstructed the latter, trampling on each other, and instantly turned into a pile of meat paste. Continue charging. Someone in the cavalry formation roared. Following that, a few mortals with glowing hands rode their horses to the front line, charging impulsively to the front. They were experts who had grasped martial souls and battle aura. The martial souls and astral walls they had condensed were enough to block the attacks of the 95th style. As a result, the front line continued to push forward, and in the blink of an eye, they were already within 100 meters. The 95th style could kill mortals, but its lethality was greatly reduced against Heavenly Realm and Sacred Realm experts. Qian Feng raised his sword and roared angrily, "They're here. Charge with me." The armored demon camp and the high-level demon cavalry camp charged forward together. The speed of the armor demons was not inferior to the speed of the cavalry. They waved their battle axes and charged into the enemy's formation like a high-speed spinning steel top. Following that, the cavalry camp charged forward. There were flashes of swords and shadows, and blood splattered everywhere. This night was destined to be extraordinary. Lin General, the demon army has already advanced. Fengshi's eyes were burning with passion as he said, but there is no one to cover their flank. The Black Lava Lords are densely packed. It seems that the 50,000 vanguard soldiers are here and there might be more behind. We can't just watch like this, can we? We can't. Lin Muyu mounted treading snow and pulled out her Xinyuan sword. She ordered loudly, "Cavalry of the Valiant Dragon Legion, attack with me. Attack from the enemy's flank." Treading snow was very fast and she left in a cloud of dust. Fengshi and Su Jiantao looked at each other and could not help but laugh out loud. They urged their horses and led tens of thousands of cavalrymen to charge out with Lin Muyu. They laughed for no other reason than to follow an unparalleled famous general on the battlefield. They had no regrets in their lives. Lin Muyu charged the fastest, and the people coming toward her were also very strong. They were two people with sacred realm cultivation, and their spears were even burning with king's fighting flames. "There's a fat piece of meat, kill him." The two sacred realm experts urged their horses forward, and the spears in their hands stabbed left and right like the stings of two scorpions. However, their speed was too slow in Lin Muyu's eyes. She swept her Xinyuan sword to the right with all her might to block, and with a loud clang, the spear was forcibly broken. Her sharp sword trembled in the air, and a sword flower bloomed on the other party's neck. Her left hand grabbed the white blade, and she suddenly flipped over to clamp the other party's spear under her armpit. She suddenly raised it up, and the power in her left palm was vast and mighty. She struck the other party's heart with a swift and violent chaos of the common life, directly shattering the battle armor. The sacred realm expert spat out a mouthful of blood in the air and lay straight on the cold ground. In just one round, Lin Muyu had killed two generals in a row. She raised her Xinyuan sword horizontally, and with a piercingly cold flame, Lin Muyu urged her horse forward at high speed. At the same time, she opened her left hand, and a golden gourd wall condensed in front of her. She knocked away the opponent's cavalry with a loud bang, and the Xinyuan sword swept all the way. Its lethality was astonishing, and it felt like she was fighting against 1,000 men alone. At this moment, probably no one in the Black Rock army could stop her. At the back, Su Jiantao and Fengshi cheered in their hearts. They quickly urged their horses to keep up with Lin Muyu's speed, and led the cavalry of the Longdan army camp to charge forward and fight with the opponent's cavalry formation. It was clear who had the upper hand. The army of the Blackstone Empire had not fought for a long time, and even their usual training was rather sloppy. On the other hand, the Longdan army camp was well equipped and well trained, and their hacking speed was extremely fast. After both parties charged at each other, the Longdan army camp was almost unscathed, while the cavalry of the Black Rock army was greatly damaged. At this moment, the drums at the back of the Black Rock army shook the heavens, and another group of people charged out from the side of the forest. It was Wei Chao's 20,000-strong Longdan army camp. In an instant, the entire vanguard camp of the Black Rock army was in a mess. In front of them were Lin Muyu, the first demon camp, the Qianfeng cavalry regiment, and other strong enemies. At the back, Wei Chou had appeared. It was difficult for them to dismount, and their formation began to weaken and collapse. "Hold on. Continue to charge." At the back, a person wearing captaincy's armor stood on the war chariot. It was the general of the vanguard, Lu Liang. He raised his sword high and shouted in a low voice, "Lord Commander's main army is about to arrive. Charge. All of you are brave warriors of the Blackstone Empire. How can you allow our country to be invaded by bandits? Kill them." Under Lu Liang's command, the heavy shield bearers, spear bearers, and archers at the back of the cavalry battalion moved forward together, pushing the battle line forward. In the distance, the northern pass was lit up in flames. It seemed to be a signal that Longshi's main army was about to arrive. Crack! The Xinyuan sword swept across and cut an enemy general in half at the waist. Blood splattered everywhere. Lin Muyu relied on the wall of the gourd to block the blood. Without stopping, she turned around and used her sharp sword to kill another two spear bearers. Corpses were everywhere. There were no longer any enemies around Lin Muyu. Even the Black Rock Army cavalry immediately avoided Lin Muyu when they saw her. They went to look for Su Jiantao, Fengshi, and Situ Sen to fight. "Lin General." Su Jiantao urged his horse over. He was panting heavily and his helmet was covered in blood. There was also a sword mark on it. Are you injured? Lin Muyu was stunned. No. Su Jiantao grinned. I was just knocked by a knight's long sword. Lin General, look at the fire on the northern pass. Is it Longxi's main army? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded. Her spirit pulse technique had already sensed the dense auras rushing over from 20 miles away. It seemed like Longxi didn't plan to go all out in the battle at the northern gate from the start, but it seemed like there was someone behind Longxi's back giving him advice. Otherwise, Longxi wouldn't have taken advantage of the time when the Great Qin Empire's army was exhausted to attack. Looking at the three armies fighting bravely, Lin Muyu was worried. At this time, although the Longdan army camp and the Devil army were fighting bravely, it did not mean that the Qin Empire had the upper hand. In fact, after 3 days of continuous travel, the army had long been exhausted. The bravery in front of them was more like the last radiance of the setting sun. Everyone needed rest. Feng Zhanlin, Feng Zhanhai, Nangong Lai and other cultivators were fine. They were very strong, so it did not matter if they did not sleep or rest. However, ordinary people were different. If Longxi's 250,000 main army really came, I'm afraid we can't resist. Su Jiantao said meaningfully, among the 250,000 people in Longxi's army, 50,000 of them are practitioners of the former Thunder Flame sect. Their strength can't be underestimated. What's more, they are waiting for us to exhaust ourselves. If nearly 80,000 cavalrymen charge at us, we will not have enough artillery shells. I'm afraid our camp will be greatly threatened. Lin Muyu pondered and said, I see. You immediately lead the army to resist the enemy's attack. I will go back and discuss it. Yes. With a sudden pull on the reins, Lin Muyu carried a bloody long sword and led dozens of guards back to the camp. The moment they entered the gate, the three beauties, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Yao, came forward. Tang Xiaoxi said with extreme displeasure, Mu, why did you personally go into battle again? I already said you are the marshal, the commander of the three armies. How can you personally go into battle? I won't do it next time. I still have important things to do. You three don't stop me. Where is Ding Shi? Marshal Ding is busy at the military supplies department. Oh, I'll be right there. Do you want to come? Oh, dozens of cavalries went straight to the military supplies department, but when Lin Muyu opened the curtain and walked in, she saw Ding Shi holding a thin pancake in his mouth, waving a pen and drawing on a map. He seemed to be reviewing the storage of military rations. The sounds of killing outside were deafening, but he did not seem to care at all. Because he was the commander of the military supplies department, he could leave the killing outside to Lin Muyu, Chen Feng, and the others. Lin General. Your Highness, why are you here? Ding Shi stood up and cupped his fists. This subordinate greets your Highness. Qin Yin smiled. Dispense with the formalities, the marshal is looking for you. Chapter 1154. Oh. Ding Shi looked at Lin Muyu with an inquiring gaze and said, I will never go to see those island pirates again. Last time they almost took off my pants because of a disagreement. I would rather die than be humiliated. Do as you see fit. The three beauties couldn't help but laugh. Lin Muyu said, Don't worry about this, I'm here for another matter. 3 days ago, I remember that Marshal Ding Shi's people bribed the official registrar of Thousand Mountain City through a secret channel. Now we need this person. For what? Immediately write a letter to this person and have him make a false report to Longxi, saying that the Southern Pirate Army suddenly launched a sneak attack on Thousand Mountain City and that the situation is critical. Let Longxi immediately lead the main force back to support. Oh. Ding Shi narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, It seems that the situation on the battlefield isn't very favorable. Marshal actually used such a disgraceful strategy of false report. It seems that there really is no other way. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. After we set foot on the land of the celestial pole continent, which strategy has been glorious. Quickly go and do your work. This letter of yours will determine the life and death of many people. Yes, this subordinate will do it immediately. When the messenger bird flew south, Lin Muyu's heart also relaxed a little. It would only take half a day for the messenger bird to reach Thousand Mountain City, and the false report from Thousand Mountain City would reach Longxi in less than 3 hours. After dawn, it was likely that Longxi's army would return to support. When they returned to the battlefield again, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Chu Yao were also accompanying them. In the distance, Si Kongyao and Lu Bai returned with bloody swords. They seemed a little tired, and their faces were full of soot and blood. Yao, are you okay? Lin Muyu rode forward and asked. I'm fine. Si Kongyao wiped her face and looked at the bloodstains on her hands. She smiled and said, "Don't worry, it's someone else's blood. However, our forces have been severely depleted. Big brother Yu, how long will this night raid last? Look, there are endless reinforcements from the Black Lava Army coming from the northern pass. I'm afraid the battle will last till daybreak." Liu Bai said, "Lin General, change the Mo army. I saw many people from the first demon camp and the cavalry camp had died. Even Marshal Qianfeng was wounded." Yes. Lin Muyu had been wanting to do this for a long time. She turned to the generals at the side of the platform and said, "Yan Qin Xiaoli, lead your troops and replace the demon troops." "Yes, big brother." "Yes, Marshal." The two of them galloped away. In the blink of an eye, the drums rumbled and nearly 50,000 men and horses charged forward. In fact, there was only one official road from the northern pass to the Qin army camp. The battlefield was in the forests and plains on both sides of the official road. The space was not very big. 50,000 men on their side and 50,000 on the enemy's side were fighting each other. It was just a war of attrition. No matter how many people there were, they would not be able to form a formation. It was a waste. Not long after, the replacement Qianfeng returned. As expected, there was a scar on his handsome face. Although it was very shallow, it was still very clear. "Qianfeng, are your injuries serious?" Lin Muyu asked. Qianfeng shook his head and smiled. "It's just a scratch. Thank you for your concern. But why did you replace us? Haven't our 8 Desolation Province troops killed enough? You guys rest first. Don't worry." Lin Muyu pointed to the flames above the northern pass and said, "Look, Longshi's reinforcements are coming. We have to replace them. Lead the troops to heal and rest first." "Yes." Qianfeng ordered his deputies, "You guys take your troops to rest and heal. I will stay here to watch the battle." "Yes, Commander." A group of high-level demon generals left. The other armored demons glared at Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. They did not know what to say and just left. The northern pass is a fortress built on a mountain pass. Attacking it by force is a stupid thing to do. Moreover, there are 4 magic crystal cannons on top of the fortress. Qianfeng looked from afar and said, "Marshal, how do you plan to attack the northern pass?" "We'll talk about it after tonight's battle." Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes. "Then the army will rest for 2 days before fighting again." "Yes, our army does need to rest." Qianfeng frowned. "The 3 armies have more than enough power to charge but not enough stamina. This is not a good thing." On the side, Ding Shi said, "If we can seize the northern pass as soon as possible, we can change from defense to offense, from passivity to initiative. Has Marshal ever thought of sending the giant flying snake to fight?" "Giant flying snake?" Lin Muyu could not help laughing. That giant's attack does not distinguish between friend and foe. Not to mention accidental injuries. Once the giant flying snake is sent to fight, the northern pass will be smashed to pieces. There's no point in seizing it. Let's think about it at length. Yes. After a night of fighting, blood flowed like a river outside the northern pass. The next morning, the snow stopped, and to everyone's surprise, the dark clouds of demon chi in the sky dispersed a little, allowing the sun to shine. Strands of golden light shone on the snowy ground, illuminating the bloodstains on the battlefield and the corpses that had yet to be dragged away. The air was filled with the nauseating smell of blood. Some starving goshawks circled in the air, looking for opportunities to swoop down and peck at the corpses. In the distance, the northern pass gate was closed. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The northern wind made the marshal's flag flutter, and the flag-bearer holding the flag was almost unable to hold it. "Let me do it." Wei Chou took the battle flag with one hand and held it steadily. He was born with great strength in his arms and was more than enough to be a flag-bearer. Lin Muyu's cloak was stained with blood, and there were several holes pierced by spears, but she did not have time to change it. She urged her horse to lead the people on the battlefield. The battlefield had to be cleaned up as soon as possible, otherwise these corpses would cause a plague. The corpse collection team is too slow. Lin Muyu frowned, saying, "General Sen, pick 20,000 strong young men from the Longdan army camp to help bury the corpses and clean up the battlefield." "Yes, my lord." Situ Sin turned and left. Lin Muyu continued to pass through the pile of corpses on the battlefield. Behind her, Ding Shi said, "Lin General, in last night's battle, the Black Rock Army mobilized a total of 130,000 people, of which more than 75,000 died in battle. Our army mobilized a total of 110,000 people, of which more than 13,000 died and 30,000 were injured. More than 5,000 magic crystal cannons and 30,000 magic crystal crossbows were used up. The consumption of medicine in the spiritual medicine department is extremely great. Miss Chu Yao has already come to the military supplies department 3 times, but this general really can't get any medicine. Ask Si Kong Yao about the medicine. Let her and Liu Bai think of a way to solve it. Yes. Ding Shi continued, I've already received the latest news. Longxi has led 150,000 troops back to Thousand Mountain City to reinforce them. Currently, there are at most 50 to 60,000 troops stationed at the northern pass. Lin Muyu thought for a moment, then said, Wei Chou, order the front army to set up the cannon formation, then send a group of 5,000 people to the northern pass to challenge them. If they come, run and lure them to attack our camp. Yes. Lin Muyu said again, Marshal Ding Shi, pay close attention to the situation in Thousand Mountain City. Once Long Shi leads his army out of the city again, immediately send out a false report through your spy. I want to torture Long Shi and his Black Lava army to the point that they can't sleep or rest in 2 days. Ding Shi nodded. Having an opponent like Marshal is really bloody bad luck. Lin Muyu glanced at him. That's because I have a good helper like you. Oh right, will there be any consequences for making a false report last night? Of course there will be. Ding Shi said, given Longshi's temper he will definitely fly into a rage and thoroughly investigate who released the false report. But Lin General, don't worry, my men are very clean, they won't be found out. I have already arranged a scapegoat. Lin Muyu smiled. That's great. Oh right, don't throw away the Black Rock Army's flags and armor that we obtained from cleaning up the battlefield. Wash them and dry them, they will be of great use in 2 days. The corners of Ding Shi's mouth rose. I understand, I am already making preparations. Even the flags of the various camps have been distributed. Marshal, don't worry. Marshal Ding, I'm really lucky to have a colleague like you. It's the same for me. To be able to work with Lin General is a great blessing in my life. In the past, Ding Shi's colleagues were idiots like Marquis Man Ning and young Master Qin Huan who would only delay matters. Now that he was working with wise and far-sighted people like Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, Chen Feng, Su Jiantao and Wei Chou, he naturally felt very carefree. Damn it, it's a false report. In Thousand Mountain City, Longshi's face was full of anger. He was so angry that his entire body was trembling, his gaze cold. Zhou Ziang said respectfully, Commander, I have already convinced the pirates on the islands to not attack Thousand Mountain City. This request for reinforcements is definitely a false report. But the pirates also did not attack the Qin bandits' camp overnight. Longxi looked at him with a burning gaze. Zhou Ziang frowned. The bandits are not trustworthy. They are only afraid of the strength of the rebel army. But now, there are only a few tens of thousands of soldiers defending the northern pass. They will not be able to resist the hundreds of thousands of Qin soldiers. I believe that the most important thing is to immediately send a large number of soldiers to guard the northern pass. When the Imperial Army of the Huiyuan Province and Qinji Province attack Shiping City together, we will attack Lin Muyu's troops from both the front and the back. Sir, are you so sure that Feng Jixing cannot defend Shiping City? Our 2 armies have a total of 400,000 elites, while Feng Jixing only has a mere 150,000 veterans. What does he have to resist Marshal Chen Yu's army? If that's the case, Longxi said lightly, you are the advisor sent by His Majesty. I will listen to you. Pass down my order. After lunch, immediately reinforce the northern pass at full speed. No mistakes. Yes. In the afternoon, a precious ray of gentle sunlight shone on the earth. The northern gate of Chenshan City opened and a dense mix of infantry and cavalry rushed out of the city. They had to reinforce the northern pass within a day. It was a distance of 200 miles. They should be able to reach it in 1 night. But Longxi and Zhou Ziang did not know that a strong enemy was already waiting for them in the distance. Late at night, the lights in the marshal's tent of the Qin army were still not extinguished. Lin Muyu carefully looked through the military intelligence and then handed it to Ding Shi. Longxi is really simple-minded. He left the city again so soon. Longshi's 150,000 elites are less than 4 hours away from us. You know what to do. Ding Shi smiled slightly. I will write a letter to the pirates and tell them that Chenshan City is empty. Let them immediately attack Chenshan City at full speed. No. Lin Muyu waved her hand and said, this will make them suspicious. You have to write it like this. Say that Longshi's 200,000 troops attacked our camp and caused great damage to our army. Let the pirates immediately attack from the rear and reinforce our army. Write a letter asking for help and promise. In this way, those despicable and shameless pirates will be relieved to attack Chenshan City instead of reinforcing us. Ding Shi looked deeply at Lin Muyu and said, the marshal's ability to attack people's minds has reached a frightening level. Lin Muyu glanced at him. I like the days of Xiaoyao with a few old friends drinking and admiring the moon all day. Do you think I want to be tortured every day and wake up often at night? I understand. I will do it now. Well, be quick. Yes. Chapter 1155. On the 6th of January, the 140,000 South Sea pirates arrived at Thousand Mountain City and bribed the spies in the city to attack Thousand Mountain City. After receiving the news, Long Shi led the exhausted 70,000 Black Lava Army cavalrymen back in the starry night. Together with Zhou Ziang, they destroyed the pirate army, beheaded nearly 40,000 people and captured nearly 20,000 people. But there were still 80,000 pirates who escaped and returned to the West Blue. The entire Thousand Mountain City was shrouded in the smell of blood. Snow began to fall from the sky again, and the cold morning wind made people shiver. However, Long Shi stood numbly on the ground floor of the Great Hall of Thousand Mountain City, looking down at the city. His face was pale. Perhaps it was because he was tired, or perhaps it was because it was difficult to deal with, but his spirit was somewhat dispirited. Commander. Zhou Ziang's robe was stained with blood as he walked over the snow. Those captives, how do we deal with them? Kill. Long Shi's eyes were filled with hatred as he said, that bastard Lin Muyu, is he toying with my 150,000 strong army like monkeys? Using this group of untrustworthy pirates to hold us back, making me exhausted, humph. I will remember this debt, sooner or later I will settle it with him. Zhou Ziang. Your subordinate is here, Commander, please give your orders. Immediately use the torture methods of the Blackstone Empire and execute these pirates on both sides of the official road. Let the whole world know the fate of those who oppose me, Long Shi. Yes. Zhou Ziang's face was filled with shock. The stabbing was a very terrifying punishment, using a sharp and strong wooden stick to pierce through the body, using gravity to slowly slide down, and finally the stick will pierce through the person's body, coming out from the mouth or head. This process is very cruel and painful. At least a day, at most a few days, the person being executed will taste the pain and die. Ever since Yang Shang established the kingdom of Shang, these punishments have been replaced by beheading. Zhou Ziang never thought that Long Shi would actually use this kind of torture again. One could imagine what would happen if the common people saw the people struggling on the wooden thorns on both sides of the official road. Although this could make Long Shi's prestige spread throughout the world, it would also make the common people more afraid of him. Zhou Ziang nodded. He knew why Long Shi did this. Originally, Long Shi was the leader of the Thunder Flame sect. He led the sect to serve the empire's Emperor Shi Yuan, but after being defeated by Yang Shang's Protoss army, Shi Yuan selfishly ascended, leaving Long Shi as the general of the defeated army. In fact, Long Shi was the general of the defeated army and tasted humiliation. Now he has become the commander of the Blackstone Empire, the owner of the Blackstone Empire, but was played around in circles by Lin Muyu pirates. His heart must be very heavy. Commander, 3 of these prisoners are the leaders of the major pirate groups. These 3 people have a strong appeal. Do you want to keep them alive? No, don't. Long Shi's face was full of ruthlessness. Use the rat punishment on them. I want to watch the execution in person. After the execution, send their bodies to Lin Muyu. Yes. In the secret room below the castle, the 3 pirate leaders were gagged and tied to 3 wooden boards in a lying posture. Long Shi, dressed in golden armor, walked in, his eyes indifferent, and said, "Execute." "Yes, my lord." Several soldiers quickly stripped off the clothes of these pirates, revealing their bellies, and then someone came over with an iron bucket. A group of rats were squeaking in the iron bucket. They put the iron bucket upside down on the exposed bellies of the pirates and then said, "Bring charcoal." Several pieces of red-hot coal were placed at the bottom of the iron bucket, and suddenly the high temperature continued to go down. The nature of rats is timid and cruel. Once they are threatened with death, they will desperately escape. Holes are naturally the first choice, and at this time the only direction to hole is the flesh and blood below. So the rats crazily pulled the belly of the pirates. The 3 pirates trembled in pain and their faces were full of sweat, but they couldn't scream. Blood flowed down the edge of the iron bucket and dripped on the ground. Zhou Ziang was stunned. This scene was not like a human being. The Long Shi in front of him is no longer a human but a devil. Only a devil will carry out this inhumane punishment. However, Long Shi looked indifferently at the 3 pirates slowly dying. "Zhou Ziang-sama, you don't look very good," he said. Zhou Xiang's body trembled slightly and said, This subordinate is just a weak scholar. I have never seen such a bloody scene, so naturally I am a little uncomfortable. Is that so? Longxi smiled slightly, but you are now a military advisor, a soldier. You should get used to everything in front of you. Killing will become your instinct. You will lead the people to carry out the assassination outside the city. But commander, but what? Zhou Xiang said with a deep gaze. If I am not wrong, Lin Muyu should be attacking the northern pass. The pirates are restraining the main force of the Black Lava Army, so Lin Muyu will definitely take the opportunity to attack the northern pass. Once the northern pass falls, the entire Thousand Mountain City will be exposed to Lin Muyu's army without any barriers. At that time, it will be too late to regret. Is that so? Longxi laughed loudly, and a faint purple demonic aura suddenly appeared around his body. Outside the secret room, rumbling sounds of thunder could be heard, and a large amount of demonic aura overflowed. Swoosh! A ball of purple energy descended from the sky, heading straight for the main hall. A few guards were shocked. What the hell is this? Block it. Their gold-plated shields blocked the door, but how could they block it? The guards were immediately smashed into pieces, and the ball of demonic aura frantically searched for a target to recognize as its master. Finally, after piercing through a few stone walls, it found that person. Was Longxi. Demonic body, Longxi laughed wildly. Come, my demonic body, I have been waiting for you. Bus. The demonic energy floated into Longxi's body like a person and merged with him. When the demonic body completely entered his body, Longxi opened his eyes, and his gaze became increasingly fierce. Zhou Xiang was so scared that he didn't say a word. After obtaining the demonic body, Longxi seemed to have changed into a different person. The so-called demon god Ascension was actually using his remaining conscience to exchange for super strong power. Filet and Jin Chong had already verified this point. The demonic aura swept in all directions and everyone was pushed back again and again. Longxi's body slowly flew up, accepting the baptism of demonic aura in the air. Countless electric lights and fiery demonic shadows constantly passed through his body, and Longxi's expression actually looked like he was enjoying it very much. He slowly opened his arms and his eyes were cold. Come, share this world with me and kill all those who betray me. Boom. A blazing flame descended from the sky and turned into the shape of a scroll. It was the heavenly book of demon sealing. Light flowed under the heavenly book, and slowly converged into a half-human figure, which somewhat resembled Chu Xingyun. He said in a deep voice, Longxi, today I bestow upon you the demonic body of a first-tier mid-level demonic god, and confer upon you the title of Demon God of Annihilation. I hope that you will overturn the seas and rivers in this world, and kill all those hypocritical villains who claim to be righteous, and attain the demonic path. Longxi slowly knelt down, his eyes full of flames, and smiled. Many thanks for the bestowment, demonic god. This subordinate will do his best to serve the demonic world. Whoosh! The flame dissipated, and the heavenly book of demon sealing also turned into a beam of light that shot into the sky. Chu Xingyun's figure rapidly disappeared, leaving only a mid-level demonic god, Longxi, in the secret chamber. His whole body was emitting a ruthless and evil aura. He smiled and said, Now that I am already a mid-level demonic god and have attained the demonic path, military counselor, will you continue to be loyal to me? Zhou Xiang's body slightly trembled and his knees went weak. He suddenly knelt down and said, This subordinate is willing to serve the commander. Go and execute the assassination. Immediately dispatch the troops in the afternoon, and lead all 80,000 cavalrymen to reinforce the northern fortress. I will let Lin Muyu know how to write the word death. Yes. At the same time, the cannons at the northern fortress resounded again and again. Wei Chou led the Longdan army camp and officially began to storm the fortress. On the mountain range next to the northern fortress, flags were fluttering. Lin Muyu led Situ Sen, Situ Shui, Si Kongyao, and Su Jiantao to the top of the mountain range. From there, they could already see the panoramic view of the inside of the northern fortress. The northern fortress was only a small city, and it could not accommodate 70 to 80,000 men. Therefore, most of the soldiers guarding the northern fortress were stationed on the flat ground inside the northern fortress. It was a valley with hills that were dozens of meters high on both sides, and a flat ground that was hundreds of meters wide in the middle. That is the very famous 10-mile winding valley. Si Kongyao pursed her red lips and said, Big brother, many battles have happened there. Most of the wars between the Qinji Empire and the Blackstone Empire started in the 10-mile winding valley. 10-mile winding valley. 10-mile winding valley. Lin Muyu repeated it twice and her eyes lit up. Send my order to Weiqiu. Don't attack too fiercely. We must give Longxi enough time to reinforce. Yes. At this moment, dark clouds rolled across the horizon. The light of the heavenly tome of demon ceiling enveloped the sky, and demonic characters floated across the horizon. This time no demonic shadow spoke. Lin Muyu frowned and said, "What do those demonic characters mean?" "They are all ancient characters," the torch dragon said. At the side, the torch dragon said, "Chief, the main meaning of this passage is that a human has obtained the demonic body of a mid-god and has become one of the demonic gods listed in the demonic book. His name is Longxi and he comes from the celestial pole continent." Longxi. Lin Muyu was stunned and said, "Longxi actually obtained a demonic body?" "Yes." Qin Yin's eyes were as clear as water. She said, "Big brother Yu, if we plan to fight in the 10-mile winding valley, we need more experts to fight against Longxi who has just become a demonic god. I'll send the order to Feng Zhanlin and Weiqiu to come over." "Yes." Lin Muyu frowned. "Ask Scholar Ling to come over too. We need the power of the heavenly tome to fight against Longxi." "Yes." In the distance the siege was ongoing. Under the bombardment of the magic crystal cannons, the two outer walls of the northern pass had been turned into dust. Currently, a large number of troops were fighting under the walls, and the outcome was very clear. However, Lin Muyu felt as if there was a mountain pressing down on her heart. Even the heavens were helping the bad guys. This was already the third demonic god, but no righteous god that represented the righteousness of heaven and earth had appeared. Chapter 1156. As dusk approached, a dense horde of Black Lava Army cavalry appeared on the plains in the south. They were extremely fast, but the northern pass had already fallen. Currently, a large number of Longdan Army camp troops had started to enter the 10-mile meandering valley. On horseback, Zhou Ziang was on the verge of vomiting. He endured the discomfort and said, "Commander, since the Qin traders have already seized the northern pass, why don't we set up camp here and block the exit of the northern pass? We will force the Qin traders to fight us on the plains. Their rations will not last long. As long as we hold on until the arrival of the 100,000 infantries, they will definitely be defeated. I am here to kill the traitors, not to watch the traitors die." The demonic aura in Longxi's eyes intensified. He laughed and said, "I, Longxi, have 80,000 steel cavalry, will not be afraid of a motley crew. Charge in, kill the traitors in the 10-mile meandering valley and take back the northern pass." "Commander," Zhou Ziang loudly said, "the 10-mile meandering valley is not suitable for a cavalry charge. On the contrary, it is advantageous to the traitors. Commander, please consider carefully." "There is no need to say any more. I want to fight Lin Muyu in the 10-mile meandering valley." Zhou Ziang couldn't dissuade Longxi and he didn't dare to. After all, the demon god Longxi obtained was a first-tier mid-god. His strength was a notch higher than Felix's. If Zhou Ziang really provoked Longxi, it wouldn't be impossible for Longxi to kill Zhou Ziang with a single sword strike. Perhaps even Yang Shang would have to fear this person. Dense sounds of horse hooves could be heard from the horizon. Even the entire mountain range was trembling. The sound of 80,000 steel cavalry marching together was extremely shocking. On the hillside, Weiqiu looked into the distance and said, "My lord, they are here. Let them in." Lin Muyu's eyes were like torches. "Send orders to Qianfeng's first demon camp and giant flying snakes to prepare for battle. Longdan Army camp steel cavalry to prepare. We must block the 10-mile meandering valley and not let them take back the northern pass." "Yes." Lin Muyu continued, "Raise the martial and king flags. Tell the Black Lava Army that Xiao Yin and I will be waiting for them here." Si Kongyao was taken aback. "Big brother, won't that attract Longxi to come over and start a massacre? That's exactly what we have to do. Otherwise, if a mid-god like Longxi were to charge into the valley, our army wouldn't be able to stop him." Lin Muyu glanced at the crowd and said, "Only we are worthy to be Longxi's opponents. Are you all afraid?" "Don't worry, we have the advantage in numbers." Feng Zhanlin laughed. Lin Muyu also laughed and said, "The enemy is strong while I am weak. At this time we are all mortals. I have let everyone down by fighting a god with my mortal body." "Don't say that, Lin General." Nangong Lai said, "No one has thought of the collapse of the 6 realms. Naturally, Lin General doesn't know either. It is already our fortune that you can take us out of the 64 domains. Now, everyone in the Dragon League is willing to follow you, uphold justice and fight for the common people. This can be considered as us truly fulfilling what a former god should do. Yes, let's prepare for war. Yes. Following the sound of horse hooves, the densely packed black lava army entered the 10-mile zigzag valley like a long black snake. On the other hand, the dark blue armors and flags of the first demon camp and the brave dragon camp connected together like a dark blue shield. A fierce battle was inevitable. They are coming. Qin Yin pulled out the Donghua sword with a clang and looked into the distance. It was a group of black lava army cavalry. They were heading straight for the flag of the Qin Empire. They were going to take the flags. Tang Xiaoxi also slowly pulled out the Zhu Rong sacred fire sword. Her eyes were full of fighting spirit. This group of enemies were not ordinary people, but a group of cultivators with high cultivation. Most of them were cultivators of the original Thunder Flame sect. Now they were weakened by the principal power, but their strength was still maintained at the level of Earth Realm, Heaven Realm, and even Holy Realm. They were much stronger than ordinary soldiers. Shield formation. At Lin Muyu's order, Feng Zhanlin personally carried the shield and led the Dragon League to the front. Although there were only about 100 people on the hillside, each of them was a master from the Qin Empire. Candle Dragon and Fuzhu take people to protect Weiqiu. The rest of you follow me to face the enemy. Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice. She carried the Xian Yuan sword and rushed forward like an arrow. What greeted her was a chaos of the common people. Suddenly, in the celestial body of all living things, 2 cavalrymen were smashed into pieces. Buzz. The Donghua sword trembled slightly, and the celestial dragon crystal broke through the air. Qin Yin easily killed 7 or 8 people with one slash. Tang Xiaoxi guarded on one side. Zhu Rong's sacred fire sword fell from the air and slashed out a dazzling sword chi, killing 3 to 5 people that Qin Yin did not kill. Candle Dragon screamed. Nangong Lai, Situ Sen and the others roared. On the hillside, there were flashes of blades and shadows of swords. The battle was already a mess. With the Shen Yuan sword in hand, Lin Muyu kept the invisible elephant spell and the spiritual pulse spell exploring. The strongest opponent still had not appeared. Longxi had suppressed his divine power, so Lin Muyu's spiritual pulse spell could not sense him. After all, there was a great disparity in strength, so it was normal that she could not sense him. However, Weiqiu had already sent people to form a shield formation. The iron shields all contained stalactite elements, so it was impossible to break the void on this hillside. So, where was Longxi? Crack! At the same time that the Xian Yuan sword cut a holy master cavalryman in half, a piercingly cold chi suddenly fell from the sky behind. Was Longxi? He actually chose to launch a surprise attack from the sky. The sword chi, surrounded by cold devil chi, went straight for Qin Yin. Xiaoyin dodge. Tang Xiaoxi was the closest and could protect Qin Yin the best. Zhu Rong's sacred fire sword swept past from the side, going straight for Longxi's body. However, his speed was far inferior to Longxi's. Longxi immediately changed his move in midair. He retracted his sword that was going for Qin Yin and turned to slash at Tang Xiaoxi with a ferocious look. The moment Longxi's sword approached, Tang Xiaoxi already knew that she was no match for him. Gritting her teeth, she let out a low growl. The flames around her exploded, and she entered the demon god state. Her 9 tails swayed behind her graceful figure, and Zhu Rong's sacred fire sword slashed at Longxi. Bang! The moment the 2 swords collided, Tang Xiaoxi's blood surged. She felt a sweetness in her throat, and an arrow of blood shot out of her mouth. Die! Longxi's attack was swift, and the second sword stabbed at Tang Xiaoxi's delicate body. There was no way Tang Xiaoxi could block this attack. Everyone was shocked. Just how strong was this intermediate demon god? Even someone as strong as Tang Xiaoxi couldn't withstand a single blow from the demon god? Buzz. Qin Yin appeared at Tang Xiaoxi's side almost instantly, using her body to block Tang Xiaoxi. At the same time, the Donghua sword shone brightly. Shi Yan's 7 strikes of mercy. The power of the law of light burst out in an instant, and even 4 golden wings appeared behind Qin Yin. However, she didn't have enough divine power to form 4 wings. Longxi's sword fell and directly knocked away the Donghua sword, but he was also shaken to a halt for a few seconds. When he looked again, Qin Yin had already disappeared into the crowd with Tang Xiaoxi in her arms, and Lin Muyu came with a sword in her hand. Lin Muyu? Longxi hadn't seen Lin Muyu before, but he could tell from her aura that she was the legendary person. Lin Muyu activated the invisible elephant art. With a shout, the Xianyuan sword blasted at Longxi with the dark energy of the six luminaries' heavenly tribulation. Go to hell. Longxi laughed loudly, showing his arrogance. His long sword blasted on the Xianyuan sword with a magnificent brilliance. In an instant it was obvious who was superior. Lin Muyu was shaken so much that the perlicue between her thumb and index finger bled. Her figure was crushed by Longxi's aura and fell back. She hit a pine tree heavily and broke it in half. Everyone was shocked. At this time, a beam of light flew out from the crowd and reached Longxi's chest in an instant. It was the sun-shooting arrow. Bang! The arrow turned into a spiritual light and exploded in front of Longxi's chest. Longxi trembled all over and felt a faint pain. He turned his eyes to Wei Chou. Wei Chou was extremely fast. In an instant, he shot 3 arrows accurately and violently, splashing on Longxi's protective upstanding qi and demonic body. Even streams of demonic aura began to fly, which was a sign that the demonic body was damaged. Brat, you're courting death. Longxi raised his long sword. Wrapped in demonic aura, he charged at Wei Chou. Block it for me. Sidu bellowed. He and Qin Yin, one on the left and one on the right, attacked with their long swords. First appearance of starlight and the light of the dragon-scale armor martial soul surged in the air. However, before they could touch Longxi's true body, they were already repelled by the power of the domain formed by the demonic aura around Longxi. The two of them vomited blood and fell to the ground, heavily injured. Feng Zhanlin leaped forward and swept his iron shield. Retreat. Longxi punched out and Feng Zhanlin's iron shield instantly shattered. He vomited blood and fell to the ground. Wei Chou shot another 3 arrows consecutively. However, he was unable to pierce through Longxi's shield. After all, Wei Chou's cultivation was no longer as good as before. He was unable to fully unleash the power of the Hoi Bao. Buzz. The long sword attacked like a venomous snake. Longxi had already used his domain to control Wei Chou's body, making it impossible for him to move. It was as if he had fallen into an ice cave. The feeling of impending death was incomparably terrifying. Protect Wei Chou. A person pounced over. It was Ling Songhan, the former deputy domain master of the Mystic Heaven region. The sharp sword in his hand spun rapidly, bringing out streams of deep-sea energy. It was like a huge whirlpool dispelling Longxi's demonic energy. However, although Ling Songhan was strong, he was not as strong as Longxi. Pooh! The long sword pierced through the energy layer and pierced Ling Songhan's abdomen. Songhan! Nangong Lai screamed hysterically. The long sword fiercely slashed at the side of Longxi's body. Above, Zhulong waved his 2 swords and struck Longxi's back. Wei Chou's heart trembled slightly. He drew his bow and shot an arrow at Longxi's face. Bang bang bang. With 3 loud bangs, Longxi's body spun rapidly and rolled along the snow. However, he was only injured but not killed. He suddenly swung his long sword, and invisible sword energy swept out. More Dragon League experts fell to the ground. Stop him! Nangong Lai looked at Ling Songhan, who had fallen to the ground and died. That was his close friend of many years. Nangong Lai never thought that someone as strong as Ling Songhan would die. Tears flowed from his eyes. Kill him, revenge, revenge. Longxi didn't seem to want to retreat. He moved like a bolt of lightning. His long sword flashed twice, and another 2 Sacred Realm experts fell to the ground. However, when Longxi waved his arm for the 3rd time, a blood-red energy suddenly wrapped his palm. From above, a powerful force came. Looking up, he saw Lin Muyu holding the Xianyuan sword with both hands and attacking fiercely. Blood refining the firmament. Chapter 1157. Boom. A wave of dark force that could incinerate everything rushed towards him. Facing Lin Muyu's heavenly blood-smelting blood, Longxi did not dare to be careless. He hurriedly used all his god power to block and swung his long sword, sweeping up the flying snow and withered leaves to meet the attack. Amidst the loud sound, both of their figures shook at the same time. This time Lin Muyu was not sent flying. This was enough to prove that Wei Chou, Zhulong and the rest had injured Longxi's body. At the very least, they had caused great damage to his god power. However, Longxi's recovery speed was obviously faster than Lin Muyu's. His figure swept forward, and the demonic aura on his long sword surged. His face was full of a sinister smile. Die. Lin Muyu quickly retreated and suddenly opened her palm. The 7 luminaries' celestial sword broke through the air and slammed into Longxi's body. However, like a torrent crashing into a stone pillar, it was instantly dispersed by Longxi's god power. Everything in the world listened to my command. As Lin Muyu closed her palms, the withered leaves and snow in the surrounding mountains buzzed and floated up. Their gravity had already been borrowed by Lin Muyu. As her palms fell, the power of mountains descended from the sky and blasted towards Longxi. Bang! The ground suddenly sank by nearly 2 meters, and the 2 black lava army cavalrymen behind Longxi were crushed into a pile of meat paste. Bastard! Longxi was furious. He had previously heard that Lin Muyu from the Shattered Cauldron realm was a genius. Now that he had seen this brat in person, he realized that this brat was actually able to deal with him with his divine heaven cultivation. How could this be? The blade flew forward and shattered the dragon blood shield with a crisp bang. He immediately swung his sword to block, but he could not block it at all. Longxi's speed was too fast. Oh. The tip of his sword stabbed into Lin Muyu's shoulder. When it went in by about 3 centimeters, Longxi had no choice but to retract his sword. This was because a wind-piercing arrow was already flying towards his head. It was the Hou-Yi Bao again. As Longxi paused for a brief moment, Zhu Long, Chang Liang, Di Jiang, and Go Long attacked him from all directions, their palms glowing brightly. Longxi did not dare to underestimate them. He suddenly spun on the spot, his demonic energy turned into a storm, and the bodies of the 4 masters were also sucked into it. For a moment, lightning and thunder were heard unceasingly, applause and sword strikes were heard. However, the auras of the 4 experts grew weaker and weaker. Even if they joined forces, they were still no match for Longxi. Lin Muyu was gasping for breath. The starlight in her palm was dense, and the sky was densely covered with clouds. The 7 glorious stars transformation was ready to be unleashed. Her face was ashen as she said, "All of you disperse." Zhulong and the others had been waiting for this sentence. The 4 of them transformed into 4 bolts of lightning and flew away. Whoosh! Wei Chou shot another arrow attack, and it was 3 consecutive shots. 3 sun-shooting arrows flew in front of Longxi almost at the same time. Longxi was shocked. He suddenly lowered his head to avoid an arrow, and then his hands grabbed in front of him like iron pincers, forcibly crushing the energy of 2 sun-shooting arrows. However, at the moment when Longxi grabbed the sun-shooting arrows, the starlight in the sky came crashing down. 7 glorious stars transformation. Moreover, this was a stellar transformation launched by Lin Muyu in the body of a mortal. The buzzing sound of space tearing and trembling came from behind Longxi. Obviously he wanted to break the void and escape, but he couldn't. The surrounding field was disturbed by the magnetic field of the Zhongyan, and he couldn't penetrate the 4-dimensional space at all. Therefore he had to raise his arm and condense a demon shield to resist the bombardment of the starlight. A series of explosions raged in front of him like purgatory. Lin Muyu raised his palm to the sky, guiding the attack of the power of the stars, but his face was covered with sweat, and blood kept flowing from his fingers. He was extremely weak. "Brother Yu," Qinyin stood up from under a broken tree with blood on her face. She looked at Lin Muyu and murmured, but he probably couldn't hear her. Tang Xiaoxi also stood up from the rubble, leaning on Zhu Rong's sacred fire sword. It was chaos in the distance. Almost all the masters of the Qin Empire worked together to kill Longxi, but it had little effect. Feng Zhanlin, Nangong Lai, and the others looked at everything in front of them with their mouths agape. Perhaps the only mortal in this world who could fight against God was Lin Muyu. However, Lin Muyu's power was rapidly declining, but when the last star fell, he suddenly fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood, which reflected a patch of red on the snow. He lowered his head and sat down in the snow. This was the limit he could do. Kill Longxi. The people of the Dragon League roared and rushed over. But when the light of the stars faded, Longxi was still standing there, wrapped in demonic flames. Facing him was a master who was waving 2 swords. It was Wang Xiang of the earth-bearing region. Buzz. The blade of the sword was piercingly cold. Wang Xiang's sword was no small matter. It forced Longxi to slide half a step back with his left foot. He suddenly grabbed the hilt of the sword with his right hand and pushed out his left palm, which directly hit Wang Xiang's chest. The sound of bones breaking could be heard. At the same time, Wei Chao's sun-shooting arrow finally succeeded. It shot into Longxi's abdomen and blood kept flowing. Throat. Behind the crowd, a huge monster rushed over, roaring and waving its sharp claws at Longxi's face. Ha! Longxi was shocked. This monster was neither a human nor a beast. It looked very frightening, and its strength was even more vigorous. It directly shook Longxi's sharp sword away, opened its mouth and bit Longxi's left arm. It shook its head and bit with all its might. Pff. Amidst the splattering of blood, Longxi's entire left arm was bitten off. "Beeman King, well done," Scholar Ling shouted from afar. Longxi endured the intense pain and spun around, smashing the hilt of his sword heavily on the head of the Beeman King. He used the rebound force to retreat rapidly. Behind him, a group of Black Lava Army cavalry charged over. One of the generals shouted, "Commander, leave quickly. We will bring up the rear for you." "Don't run, Longxi. Kill him." Situ Sin raised his long sword. Wei Chou had already left the protection range of the crowd. He held his longbow and leaped a few times, landing on a big tree like an agile monkey. He drew the Ho-Yi bow, aimed at Longxi's back, and shot ferociously again. The sun-shooting arrow pierced through the bodies of 2 cavalrymen and hit Longxi's back, almost causing Longxi to fall off his warhorse. However, there were more and more cavalrymen around him, and they all raised their heavy shields to protect him. As they walked down the mountain, Longxi was instantly covered, and Wei Chou's next arrow could only land on those cavalrymen. The battle on the hillside had already ended. It was short but tragic. The eyes of Nangong Lai and the others were red. In less than 5 minutes of bloody battle, many experts of the Dragon League had died. Ling Songhan, Wang Xiang, and the others were once the elites of the godly state, but now they had died tragically in the hands of Longxi. Their corpses were still on the snowy ground and everyone was busy fighting, so they had no time to bury them. Lin General, Lin General. Ding Shi knelt on the snowy ground and supported Lin Muyu's arm. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi came together, and the 2 beauties were about to cry. At this time Lin Muyu looked very terrible. His face was covered with blood, and the blood vessels on his wrists seemed to have burst. Qin Yin's eyes were filled with tears, and she tore off a piece of her cloak to bandage him without saying a word, while Tang Xiaoxi looked at him with red eyes, and her shoulders trembled slightly. "Lin General, wake up." Ding Shi gritted his teeth. "The army is waiting for your command." "Ah." Lin Muyu suddenly woke up from the nightmare, coughed violently a few times and spat out a mouthful of blood. She opened her eyes and looked around asking, "Everyone, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Longxi escaped. "What should we do next?" Ding Shi was very anxious. "According to the original plan, let Su Jiantao come here." "Yes." A few minutes later, Su Jiantao rode over and knelt on the ground saying, "This subordinate pays his respects to Milord. How is the battle situation?" Lin Muyu was still sitting on the snowy ground, lying in Qin Yin's arms, looking extremely battered. Su Jiantao said, "The majority of the 80,000 cavalrymen that Longxi brought have already entered the 10-mile Crescent Valley. The vanguard is currently fighting with us, and Qian Feng's troops have already begun to clash with them. It seems that we won't be able to hold on for long. Longxi's cavalrymen are the Blackstone Empire's most elite cavalrymen, and their charging and destructive power are astonishing." The sky has darkened. Lin Muyu looked at the sky and did not answer his question. Instead she said, "Su Jiantao, carry out the mission that I gave you previously. 3,000 soldiers from the Longdan army camp will change into the Blackstone army's uniform and flag, and kill their way into the enemy's camp from the top of the mountain. The Blackstone army's cavalrymen are originally from the Blackstone Empire, and they aren't familiar with each other. Our 3,000 men will change into their uniform and flag, and split into 30 small teams to infiltrate their camp. Kill anyone you see and cause chaos among them. Not long after, the 80,000 cavalrymen will start to kill each other." "Yes, this subordinate understands." "Go and do it immediately." "Yes." Su Jiantao led a few dozen cavalrymen away. Lin Muyu trembled as he tried to stand up, but his body was too weak. As he struggled, he coughed violently again and blood flowed down from his nose. "Help me up the horse, I want to watch this battle," he said in a low voice. "Okay." Qin Yin nodded her head gently and helped him up Taksha's back. Then Lin Muyu's entire body leaned on Taksha's back. The white cloak behind him was stained with blood, and his body was trembling slightly. "Marshal," the eyes of Wei Chou, Qin Yin, Qin Xiaoli and the rest turned red and their hearts ached. For the sake of the Qin Empire's victory, Lin Muyu had almost given his all. "What are you waiting for?" Lin Muyu panted heavily, looked at the crowd and said, "The rest of you, lead your troops from the 2 sides of the mountain to the south, and form an encirclement around the 10-mile valley. This time, we must destroy the main force of Longxi in one fell swoop." "Yes." Night fell and the sounds of killing filled the air in the valley. Su Jiantao's 3,000 men disguised themselves as the enemy and killed their way in. Along the way they killed anyone they saw and shouted that the other party was a spy from the Qin army. This instantly caused an internal conflict. The 80,000 cavalrymen of the Blackstone army were in a mess in the valley, and they shot and killed each other like a pot of porridge. Chapter 1158. How could this be? How could this be? Don't panic, don't panic. Longshi rode on his horse, his left arm dripping with blood. He roared madly at the disorderly cavalry, but it was to no avail. The morale of the army was completely shaken. At the side, Zhou Xiang's face was deathly pale. Despicable Lin Muyu, he sent people to wear our clothes and infiltrate our army to cause chaos. Now that the morale of the army is in chaos, we can no longer attack. Commander, give the order to retreat. You are also injured, you can't continue like this. Otherwise it will be a crushing defeat. You shut up. Longshi roared angrily, demonic flames surging from the sword in his hand. Zhou Xiang, as the strategist of the Black Lava Army, you failed to form an alliance with the pirates because of your incompetence. Furthermore, because of your incompetence, you were unable to see through Lin Muyu's scheme and caused the 80,000 cavalrymen to fall into such a desperate situation. You useless trash, you actually have the face to talk about retreating to shake the morale of the army. Men, drag Zhou Xiang away and behead him. Yes. 2 cavalrymen immediately twisted Zhou Xiang off his horse. Commander, ah. Zhou Xiang's face was pale. Could it be that the army's defeat is my fault alone? I tried to persuade you but you didn't listen. If you agreed to my battle strategy and set up camp on the plains instead of entering the 10-mile valley, would we have lost today? Mother Ker, you still dare to speak. Longshi stepped forward and waved his sword. At that moment, Zhou Xiang's head flew into the air. A pitiful strategist had fallen to such a tragic end. Commander, what's the situation now? A few captains he asked. Longshi's eyes were cold. Continue to supervise the battle. Charge towards the north and kill anyone who resists, regardless of whether they are our soldiers or not, kill them all. General Wang, you will supervise the battle. Yes, Commander. However, battles were ever-changing. Before Longshi could organize tens of thousands of troops to launch a counterattack, the mountains on both sides had already been set ablaze. Immediately afterward, magic crystal crossbows were shot into the crowd. Explosions rang out one after another, and the cavalrymen near the mountains were instantly reduced to ashes. From the top of the mountain, Wei Chao's loud voice could be heard. Black Lava Army, you have been surrounded. If you surrender, you will not die. If you continue to resist, you will die. Soon, Qin Jun shouted together with Wei Chao. Their voices came one after another, shaking the entire valley. The morale of the Black Lava Army was already low. With this shout, many of them put down their weapons. Longshi's face was pale. Commander, I will lead my brothers to break out of the encirclement. Let's break out of the encirclement towards the south. The situation is already hopeless. If we stay here, we will only be throwing our lives away. I still have over 3,000 troops, and it is enough to break out of the encirclement. As long as we join up with the 100,000 infantry troops on the plains, we will still have the strength to fight. As the saying goes, where there is life, there is hope. A captaincy advised earnestly. Longshi felt a sharp pain from his amputated arm. This arm was forcefully bitten off by the Beeman King. The incision was not smooth and one could imagine the pain. He frowned and said, "Let's break out of the encirclement." Thus, close to 5,000 cavalrymen started to break out of the encirclement towards the south. The Qin Jun did not obstruct them. They only continuously shot arrows from the mountains on both sides. When Longshi and the other generals escaped from the valley, there were less than 100 cavalrymen left. Fine snow fluttered in the air. When Longshi looked at the people following behind him, he couldn't help but feel as if a heavy rock was pressing down on his heart. The 80,000 cavalrymen had come with great momentum, but now there were less than 100 of them left. This was a great humiliation. He knew that Lin Muyu knew how to fight a war, but how could he use his troops like this? He did not play his cards according to the rules and did not fight head-on. Instead, he used the weakness of the Black Lava Army's unclear organization and slogan to mislead his 80,000 cavalrymen into attacking each other. This person was too crafty. Longshi hated. He hated the heavens, hated the earth, and hated himself. In the Valley of 10 Miles. Amidst the snow, Lin Muyu stood beside Takshu. She stretched out her arm for Chu Yao to explode again. Chu Yao frowned slightly. Her face was filled with heartache, but she didn't say anything. She knew that this was Lin Muyu's mission. Since he had chosen to attack the celestial pole continent, he had to risk his life and drink blood. He would rather die than regret it. Chen Feng gazed at the battle situation in the distance and said, Marshal, do you really think it's worthwhile to capture these cavalrymen? They are from the Blackstone Empire. If they rebel after joining our army, it will be a disaster. I know, but Lin Muyu wanted to say something but stopped. After a few seconds she said, there are about 500,000 cavalrymen in the Celestial Pole continent, but we only have less than 100,000 cavalrymen. Every warhorse, every set of armor and every weapon are relatively expensive. Even if we have the money, we can't buy all of them now. Marshal Chen Feng should be clearer than me about the situation on the battlefield. A heavy armored cavalryman is equivalent to 3 infantrymen. These 80,000 cavalrymen are equivalent to the battle strength of 240,000 infantrymen. How can I bear to kill them all? Perhaps Marshal is right, Chen Feng said indifferently. Lin Muyu glanced at him and said, moreover, we came here from the distant Shattered Cauldron realm. We can't just rely on our own forces to attack and occupy the entire Celestial Pole continent. We are destined to use the people of the Celestial Pole continent to rule this land. Recruiting people to surrender will be our most important task in the future, and this is just the beginning. Chen Feng cupped his fists and said, Marshal's considerations are thorough. It's this subordinate's lack of consideration. This subordinate is only looking at the current situation with the eyes of a soldier, but Marshal is already looking at the current situation with the eyes of a ruler. Su Jiantao, who was at the side, said, Longshi's troops have been defeated, but he still has at least 100,000 soldiers in his hands. What should we do next? Rest for 3 days first. Lin Muyu gazed in the direction of Thousand Mountain City in the south and said, the 10-mile meandering valley was a fierce battle. We need to let the soldiers rest for a while. 3 days later, we will attack Thousand Mountain City and seize Longshi's foundation in one fell swoop. Yes. After daybreak, the army set up camp on the southern plains of the 10-mile meandering valley. In the early morning, the sound of hooves could be heard everywhere in the camp, but everyone's complexion was not very good, especially in the casualty camp, where the wailing of the seriously injured was continuous. The bodies of Ling Songhan, Wang Xiang, and the other 17 masters of the Dragon League were buried in the 10-mile meandering valley. Lin Muyu personally led everyone to pay their respects. It was already noon when they returned to the camp. After a hurried lunch, the post-war conference in the central tent was about to be held. Inside the marshal's tent, Chu Yao carefully changed the dressing for Lin Muyu. After this battle, many people were injured. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Zhulong, Nangong Lai, Feng Zhanlin, Zhulong, Dijiang, and the others were all injured. Among them, Lin Muyu's injury was the most serious, almost to the point of hurting her tendons and bones. Therefore, the conference was filled with the smell of medicine. How is the situation in the prisoner camp? Lin Muyu asked. Ding Shi cupped his fists. It's basically in a very stable state. Tell me about the gains. Yes. Ding Shi smiled and said, Longshi's cavalry army has more than 83,000 people. In this battle, we annihilated nearly 30,000 of them and nearly 50,000 surrendered. It is said that when Longshi fled, he only brought less than 100 horsemen with him. In addition, the harvest is quite plentiful. Our army obtained more than 63,000 warhorses, nearly 70,000 sets of harnesses, armor, weapons, and more than 20,000 strong bows. In addition, nearly 20,000 warhorse corpses have been transported out, which can solve our rations problem for nearly 3 days. Good, Lin Muyu nodded and said, there is one more thing for Marshal Ding Shi to be responsible for. What is it? The problem of the prisoner camp's discipline. Lin Muyu said meaningfully, we need to turn these surrendered soldiers into our own army as soon as possible. Therefore, Marshal Ding Shi needs to take some time to explain to them the culture and history of the Qin Empire and Shattered Cauldron realm. Tell them our civilization, the supremacy of the Constitution, the supremacy of the Empress, and the equality of all living beings. This is where we are superior to the kingdom of Shang. As long as they understand this, they will fight and fight for it with their lives. Ding Shi took a deep breath. This subordinate understands. In 2 days, attack Qianshan City. We don't need prisoners of war to participate in this battle. Hand over all the captured cavalry to Su Jiantao and Wei Chou. Train more imperial cavalry and let them have the fastest combat power. Yes. Su Jiantao and Wei Chou cupped their fists in unison. Lin Muyu stretched her arms and asked, is there any news from Shiping City? We won a great victory in the south. Logically speaking, Yangshang and Qinyu should be unable to sit still. Not yet. Wei Chou looked at him with clear eyes and said, Sir, there is one thing I don't understand. Is our army really going to attack Chenshan City? It is said that Chenshan City is a strong city. Back then, 3 large mercenary groups besieged Chenshan City for 2 months without success. Once Longxi decides to defend Chenshan City, I'm afraid we won't be able to attack it in a short period of time. Yes. Tang Jin nodded and said, unless we can force Longxi to lead the infantry to fight against our cavalry, otherwise, in a siege battle, our cavalry is inferior to the infantry. Lin Muyu smiled. Marshal, what are you smiling about? Tang Jin's hair stood on end. Commander Tang Jin, please wait a moment. Lin Muyu searched his robes with his injured arm for a while before finally pulling out a white cloth map. It was a map of Chenshan City's defenses. He placed the cloth on the marshal's desk and said, look, this is the outline of Chenshan City. The city is built on a plain and the 4 gates are very sturdy. Just the Barbican alone is frighteningly big, and the thickness of the city walls goes without saying. But, the city walls built on the plain are very long, at least 50 kilometers long. There is only 1 layer of city walls, 3 meters thick and 6 meters tall. Wei Chao's eyes lit up. He smiled and said, I know the marshal's strategy. Lin Muyu smiled and said, if we send the infantry and cavalry to pretend to attack the main gate, but use magic crystal cannons to flatten the city walls in the distance, then our cavalry can enter Chenshan City unhindered. No matter how strong Longxi is, he can't let his 100,000 infantry resist our 100,000 cavalry. Everyone eat and drink well. In 2 days we will kill them all. Yes. Everyone cupped their hands, their eyes burning. Since Lin Muyu made this plan, it was destined that the entire Blackstone Empire would soon fall into the hands of the Qin Empire. Chapter 1159. Gold. Fuxi sat on a gold-rimmed boulder with a long sword in his arms. He looked at the heavenly river formed by the flowing lights and flying flames in the sky. His gaze was deep and he remained silent. The sound of footsteps came from behind him. It was Miue and Fan Yang. Master, Fan Yang said respectfully. There are tens of thousands of worlds in the 6 realms, but no one has comprehended the heavenly Tao of Mahayana. It seems that the heavenly Tao has been dormant for too long. Mortals have forgotten the respect and yearning for the immortal realm. Fuxi didn't say anything. He just raised his hand and waved it in the air. Instantly, the dense demonic clouds dispersed and a golden scroll unfurled in the air. It was the heavenly sound scroll. At this moment, the heavenly sound scroll was like a wordless scroll without a single word on it. This meant that no one had engraved their name on it for the time being. The heavenly Tao of Mahayana is so vast that mortals can't comprehend it in a short time. Fuxi's gaze was calm. How's the situation with the heavenly book of demon sealing? Master, please take a look. Miue said softly. Suddenly, a purple demonic book appeared in front of them. It was densely filled with names. Miue said, in the 6 realms, more than 60 people have fallen into the demonic path and become demon gods born in the 6 realms. Just in the celestial pole continent alone, 3 demon gods have appeared. The strongest among them has even reached the realm of a first-tier middle god. Master, are we really going to leave little junior brother alone? You should know that if any demon god wants to kill him, it'll be a piece of cake. Fuxi couldn't help but laugh. Miue, you're being too worried. Don't worry, Lin Muyu is much stronger than you think. Moreover, none of his friends are easy to deal with. Even a middle god wouldn't be able to kill him so easily. Moreover, he once obtained many divine weapons in the desolate ruins, including the Chiyu armor and the Nuwa zither. I believe he'll be fine. But, the demonic Tao is thriving while the righteous Tao is declining. Are we just going to watch this happen? Miue's eyes were filled with uneasiness as she said, Master, the devil world is growing stronger day by day. Once their strength is completely strengthened, can you be sure that the devil world won't covet the supreme shrine at heavens beyond? At that time it will be too late for regrets. Fuxi said faintly, we are gods, we should know the will of the heavens and follow the will of heaven. If even I do such a heaven-defying thing, aren't you afraid that the realm beyond heaven will also develop greed, anger, and obsession? Aren't you afraid that the realm beyond heaven will take advantage of us and fall into the path of demons? Will it? Miue was stunned. Fan Yang nodded. Junior Marshal sister, I think he might. Miue remained silent. Fuxi was still looking at the heavenly river in the distance as he said, the great Tao is clear and the mortal world is vast. You can see through it and see through it all. Don't worry, his Tao is only his, no one can interfere with it. Miue, if you are really interested in this junior marshal brother, Then wait until he has comprehended the Mahayana heavenly Tao. There will be plenty of opportunities. Perhaps, he will also be the key for us to counterattack the devil world and reshape the laws of the six realms. Yes, I understand. Even though she understood what was going on, Moon Compassion still turned around and left with her sword in hand. With a sway of her body, she reappeared in the golden divine palace. She sat on the roof and looked up at the bright light in the sky. January 10th, Tianji Palace. Yang Yang's sword was inserted into the stone slabs at the foot of the throne, swaying left and right. Your Majesty, please calm down. The civil and military officials knelt down. Calm down? How can I calm down? Yang Yang's gaze was stern as he shouted in a low voice, Zhou Ziang, this incompetent person has ruined our Lisan province. He has been defeated in consecutive battles. How did he boast that he would defeat Lin Muyu? Now we have lost nearly half of the 300,000 Black Rock army. The entire Lisan province has fallen into a desperate situation. The commander of the Thunder Soul Corps, Du Guxian, cupped his fists and said, Your Majesty, actually Lord Longxi has already ascended to become a first-tier intermediate demon god. His strength is unfathomable. He still has 150,000 soldiers guarding Chenshan City. Chenshan City is very sturdy. Lin Muyu may not be able to break into the city in a short period of time. At this moment, we should immediately attack Shiping City and force Qin's back line. This will also buy Lord Longxi some precious time to deploy his troops. Yes, Your Majesty, please give the order immediately. Han Yuan also cupped his fists and said. Yang Yang's gaze was sharp. He was so angry that he did not say a word. The chief strategist Sun Shi smiled. Lord Sun, what are you laughing at? Yang Shang asked. Sun Shi said, Your Majesty, there's no need to save Thousand Mountain City anymore. The news of our defeat will definitely come in 1 or 2 days. Oh, why is Lord Sun so sure that Lord Longxi will lose? Sun Shi bowed his head and said respectfully, Your Majesty, Lord Longxi is indeed very strong, but in terms of war Lin Muyu is much stronger than Lord Longxi. That Lin Muyu has been leading troops to war since 13 years ago, and has experienced hundreds of battles, big and small. She is extremely good at attacking people's hearts and even better at attacking cities. It can be said that in terms of offense, Lin Muyu is the best in the world, but in terms of defense, Lord Longxi is not the best in the world, so, in the Battle of Thousand Mountain City, Longxi will definitely lose. Yang Shang frowned and said, Even if what you say makes sense, what should we do now? Lin Muyu will take down Thousand Mountain City, our army will recover Shiping City, and the Qin rebels will be forced to the southern border. The original Blackstone Empire's land is barren, and the population is sparse. It will be difficult for them to achieve great things. As long as we stabilize the morale of our troops, we will be in an invincible position. Good. Yang Shang said indifferently, Immediately pass down my decree. The troops under Qinyu, Duo La and Du Guxian at the border of Xishan province are to mobilize a total of 400,000 soldiers to attack Shiping City. We will personally lead the troops. Your Majesty is wise. January 11th. The war drums thundered. The Qin Empire's expeditionary army had already arrived outside Thousand Mountain City. The prepared scaling ladders, siege towers and magic crystal cannons were slowly pushed out. The main attacker was General Qin Yin, the commander of the National Army. The royal and commander flags fluttered in the air. The army of nearly 200,000 spread out, densely packed as far as the eye could see. The war drums sounded in unison, and the momentum was overwhelming. On top of the city wall, Longxi's arm had already been bandaged. Although he was a demon, it would take some time to reconstruct his arm. For the time being, he could only maintain this amputated appearance. Commander, the royal and commander flags are all there. Lin Muyu and Qinin must be there as well. A strategist pointed at the main camp of the Qin army from afar. Longxi said indifferently, Pass the order to prepare the bows and crossbows. Also, push the fire oil and catapults up. Pass the order to the entire army. We must defend the north gate to our death. Yes. The beating of the war drums became more intense, as the mighty Qin army raised their shields and approached the city walls. Arrows rained down from the city walls, clanging and clanging as they landed on the shields. However, it was hard for the arrows to kill the soldiers. Torch stones. Longxi raised his arm. Immediately, huge burning stones fell from the city wall. In an instant, the Qin army below the city wall was badly mutilated. The crowd quickly shook and hundreds of people were wounded by the arrows. Ha! The captaincy of the Blackstone army laughed loudly. One of them said, Thousand Mountain City is the strongest city in the Blackstone Empire. The city wall is 10 meters thick and 20 meters high. It was built with huge stones from the Dragon Mountain. These Western barbarians must be dreaming if they want to take down Thousand Mountain City. Let them attack. No matter how many come, they will all die. Tonight I will sneak attack their main camp. Let's see how the Western barbarians will collapse without attacking. Longshi laughed loudly. Good. 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 Before he finished shouting, the ground suddenly trembled. After a long time, the rumbling of cannons could be heard from afar. What's going on? Longshi was shocked. The crowd looked to the west and said, It's the city wall in the west. Could it be? A dragon rider quickly descended from the sky, his face pale. Commander, things are not good. Lin Muyu's troops are bombarding the city wall in the west. That place is most likely going to fall. F*CKU. Longshi angrily stepped forward and kicked the dragon rider. He roared, What are your scouts doing? Why don't you know the exact location of Lin Muyu's troops? The dragon rider spat out a mouthful of blood from the kick. He hurriedly knelt down. We have committed a capital offense. Please forgive us, Commander. Cut the crap. Longshi gritted his teeth. Leave 50,000 soldiers to guard the city gate. The rest of you follow me to the bombardment site to defend against Lin Muyu's troops. They must want to break through the city wall and fight us on flat ground. Yes. 2 hours later, when Longshi led 100,000 infantrymen along the main road to the west of the city, he saw that the city wall in the distance had been flattened. The sound of horses' hooves could be heard in the thick smoke. Longdan Army Camp's cavalry had already entered the city. Under the commander's banner, Lin Muyu, Weicho, Situ Sen and the others took the lead. Without giving Longshi a chance to get into formation, Lin Muyu raised the Shenyuan sword and shouted, Kill them all! Leave no one alive. It's over. Longshi's heart sank. He was full of despair. Although he did not know the art of war, the West City was an open field with no cover at all. It was the cavalry's world. The infantrymen behind him, who lacked training, would not be able to kill Lin Muyu's elite cavalry no matter what. Moreover, Longshi was also injured. He was even more afraid of Wei Chao's Ho Yi Bao. Charge, kill them for me. He ordered the group of captaincy. Everyone raised their long swords. This infantryman army, which consisted of only a few hundred iron cavalry, charged towards the elite iron cavalry in Longdan army camp. Longshi did not attack personally. Instead, he stayed behind and stood under the commander's banner, watching the battle with his own eyes. The 100,000 infantrymen and archers did not even manage to kill more than 3 people before they were killed by the cavalry. Not only the elite iron cavalry in Longdan army camp, but also the crazy armor demon camp. The entire West City instantly turned into a river of blood. The massacre continued for close to 2 hours. The Black Lava Army no longer had a decent shield formation or spear formation to defend against the cavalry's attack. The army was defeated like a landslide and scattered in the streets. When the last group of people escaped from him, Longshi lost all his patience and laughed maniacally. It was over. Everything was over for him. Commander, let's go quickly. 2 dragon knights descended from the sky. One of them had his shoulder pierced by a spear of Xingtian army and was bleeding profusely. He said, The situation is over. The North City Gate has been blasted open by the magic crystal cannon. Thousand Mountain City has already fallen. We can only break through from the east. Once we enter the territory of Red Cliff Province, we will be safe. The 200,000 wolf soldiers at the border of Red Cliff Province will cover us. Longshi said coldly, Fine, let's go, let's all go. Chapter 1160. In the afternoon, Chenshan City, which was known to be indestructible, was breached in just 4 hours. A large number of Blackstone soldiers surrendered and became the captives of the Qin Empire. The total number was more than 50,000. Just when Lin Muyu was about to order the 3 armies to enter the city, a rider came to report. She opened the letter. It was a letter from the leader of the southern pirate group. Fang Long. Lin Muyu just glanced at it, and her face was full of heavy expression. What did the pirates say? Qinin asked. Read it yourself. Lin Muyu handed the letter to her. After reading it, Qinin slightly frowned and said, These despicable pirates really know how to take advantage of people's difficulties. At this time they want us to hand over Chenshan City to them. Humph, in their dreams. After reading the letter, Ding Shi said, Your Highness Marshal, Fang Long wants to surrender to the Qin Empire? It's just a petty trick. Lin Muyu's eyes were indifferent. He pretended to surrender to us so that we could free up troops to attack Hongyan province and conquer the whole territory of the Blackstone Empire. In fact, he just wants to steal the gold, silver, jewelry and women in Qianshan City. Moreover, this letter doesn't look like a letter of surrender. It's more like a threat. Didn't you see? He said that if we don't accept this proposal, his 80,000 pirates will wander around. Together with the 200,000 wolf soldiers in the east and the 100,000 elite soldiers in Liaoyuan province, it's enough to make the Qin Empire's army in Qianshan City fall into eternal damnation. This despicable villain. Tang Xiaoxi gnashed her teeth in hatred. Wei Chou said, Your Excellency, what should we do now? Should we immediately enter Qianshan City and refuse the proposal of these despicable pirates? No, I accept their suggestion. Lin Muyu's eyes were like torches, and her eyes were filled with killing intent as she said, Wei Chou, send 2,000 men into Thousand Mountain City to protect the city's provisions. I will lead the army eastward and pretend to attack Hongyan province. But when we reach the eastern mountains, we will make a detour and surround Thousand Mountain City from the north and south. No matter how many pirates the Fang Dragon brings, I will kill every single one of them. Yes. After a night's rest, the Qin army started marching eastward. One day later, they were already more than 300 miles away from Qianshan City. At this time, in the jungle west of Sanshan City, a group of pirates were hiding in the jungle. They didn't even light a fire to cook, they just gnawed on some salted fish. Fang Dragon, about 40 years old, was very strong. He sat under a huge tree and chewed on the salted fish in his hand. He couldn't help but spit. How disgusting. On the side, a man with a curved blade in his hand said with a smile, Great leader, we can eat and drink well in Thousand Mountain City tonight and sleep with soft and tender women in our arms. What's the big deal about suffering now? Humph, any news from the cavalry? Not yet. At this moment, a messenger bird suddenly descended from the sky. Fang Dragon immediately caught it and took out the letter. He couldn't help laughing. The Qin people are really fierce. They just conquered Thousand Mountain City, and now they really want to attack Hongyan City. Ah. The cavalry has reported that Lin Muyu's troops have arrived at the eastern mountains, which is a full day and night's journey from Thousand Mountain City. Even if Lin Muyu's troops are made of iron, they won't be able to return in a short time. Brothers, get ready to go. Thousand Mountain City is ours. Great leader, ha. I see that Lin Muyu really wants to make you the governor of Thousand Mountain City. Of course. Fang Dragon mounted his horse and threw away the salted fish in his hand. If a man can't conquer a city and be invincible, then what's the difference between him and a salted fish? Brothers, follow me to Thousand Mountain City. I have the appointment order personally written by Empress Qin. From today onwards, I am the governor of Lisan province and you will follow me to the heavens, ha ha ha. The pirates burst into laughter. Not long after, nearly 10,000 cavalrymen and 70,000 infantrymen set off for Thousand Mountain City at lightning speed. At the same time, in the eastern mountains, everyone got off their horses to rest. Lin Muyu nibbled on her rations and looked at the sky, calculating the time. She said, General Sen, all the dragon riders move out and kill all the eyes following us. Yes. Under Situ Sen's command, dozens of dragon riders soared into the sky. Not long after, all the pirate scouts hidden in the forest were shot dead. Then, at Lin Muyu's order, the 100,000 cavalrymen divided into two groups and galloped from the north and south of the eastern mountains to attack the pirates in Thousand Mountain City. Never in his wildest dreams would the workshop dragon have imagined that he would fall into someone else's trap. Lin Muyu was far more ruthless and decisive than he had imagined. At night, there were no lights in Thousand Mountain City. After the battle, the people were as quiet as cicadas in winter. They didn't even dare to light their lamps. After the pirates entered the city, they were like wild beasts that had just been released from their cages, knocking on doors and looting everywhere. Meanwhile, Fang Ke led his men to the imperial palace. Thousand Mountain City was the imperial capital of the Darkstone Empire, and also the imperial palace of the emperor. A pirate like Fang Ke had never thought that he could become an emperor. Now the only thing he wanted to do was to immediately enter the imperial palace, sleep on the dragon bed, and sleep with all the concubines in the imperial harem. That night, the pirates blocked the four main gates of the city. They held a banquet in the palace hall and got drunk. Fang Dragon was not in a hurry to loot since he was appointed as the governor. That night, he slept on the dragon bed with two palace maids in his arms. But before dawn, the four main gates were in chaos. Shouts of killing shook the sky and flames came from all directions. What's wrong? Fang Dragon looked up and asked with his arms around the two palace maids. Outside, a guard rushed over hastily and said, "Great leader, something terrible has happened. There are people attacking the city from outside, and they've already entered the city while raising the banner of the Grand Qin Empire." What? Fang Dragon turned pale with fright. He walked out with his clothes disheveled and said, "How is it possible? Didn't Empress Qin Yin appoint me as the governor of the province? Why are they attacking us?" "I don't know. Bring me my armor and weapons." "Yes." Under the leadership of Fang Dragon, thousands of pirates rushed to the east gate with torches in their hands. The pirates who were in charge of defense outside had been killed. These pirates were tyrannical at sea, but once on land, they were no match for the well-trained soldiers of the Qin Empire. Under the light of the torches, a commander's flag was shining brightly. It was Lin Muyu. She did not ride a horse. She carried a sharp sword and led Situ Sen, Wei Chou and others into the city on foot. After a night of nearly 200 kilometers, the horses were almost exhausted. This was a forced march, so Lin Muyu ordered everyone to fight on foot. Even if the cavalry became infantry, it was more than enough to kill the pirates. "You are Lin Muyu?" Fang Dragon asked with a long sword in his hand. "You are Fang Dragon?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. You. Fang Dragon's face was livid. "Shouldn't you be in the Dongyan Mountain 200 kilometers away? Why are you here?" "I'm here to kill you bunch of pirates." Lin Muyu strode toward him. The Shenyuan sword was surging with dark force and the world was in chaos. Fang Dragon was no match for her. He hurriedly raised his long sword to block. Clang! The handle of the long sword was cut off in the middle. Lin Muyu cut Fang Dragon into two pieces with her sword. Even the great leader of this group of pirates could not take one move from Lin Muyu. Too weak. Lin Muyu pursed her lips and said lightly, "Situ Sen Wei Chou, listen to my order." "Yes, General. Kill all the pirates. Leave no one alive." "Yes." These pirates were all wrapped in headscarves and smelled of fish, which made them easy to recognize. Lin Muyu decided to kill them all before they could disguise themselves. Pirates did all kinds of evil and killed people like flies. Leaving them alive would only cause trouble in the future. At dawn, 80,000 pirates became 80,000 corpses. The city was full of blood. After the fierce battle, the three armies all withdrew from Chenshan City and did not offend the people in the city. The next morning, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi returned to Chenshan City with 200,000 infantrymen. Although the three armies were tired, it was worth it to lure and kill 80,000 treacherous pirates. Tang Xiaoxi ordered the civil officials to put up notices to calm the people. It was not until noon that the three armies entered the city. When they entered the city, the people actually walked out of their doors and lined the streets to welcome them. It could be seen that the Qin Empire had a very good reputation in the Celestial Pole continent. But in fact, Lin Muyu also knew that this reputation came from the restraint of the three armies. It was precisely because the Qin army was different from other armies. Not only did they not offend the people, but they also killed 80,000 evil pirates overnight. "Long live Her Majesty! Long live Her Highness Yin!" The people shouted in unison. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi rode in the front, protected by Qin Yan, while Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, Sidu Sen, Qianfeng, and others walked in the middle to show their seniority. Everyone rode their horses slowly forward. Suddenly, on a broken wall by the street, a child about 7 or 8 years old stood there. He was dressed in rags and looked like a homeless child. However, he raised his arms in front of his chest towards Lin Muyu, Wei Chou and the other high-ranking generals. He did a childish empire military salute, and maintained this posture for a long time. Lin Muyu was slightly moved and immediately raised his arms to return the salute. Under his leadership, Wei Chou, Situ Sen, Qianfeng, and others also saluted and stared at the child as if it had become a rule. The imperial soldiers in the back row also returned the salute to the homeless child. On the side, the people who saw this scene were also stunned. They had never seen a martial salute to a child because in the eyes of the marshal, this child was nothing. After walking over, Situ Sen wondered, "Your Excellency, why do you salute a child who is a scavenger?" Lin Muyu rode on the horse and nodded, "I don't know, but he knows the imperial military salute, which shows that he yearns to be an imperial soldier. Since he has such a dream, I should encourage him. In the future, the Qin Empire will rely on countless such children to protect us." "I think so." Sidu Sen's face was full of respect and he didn't say anything, but he understood a principle in his heart. For Lin Muyu to be able to get to where he was today and become the commander-in-chief of a 1,000,000-strong army, he did not just rely on his strength. To be able to make famous generals like Qian Feng, Su Jiantao, Feng Jixing, and Xiangyu submit to him wholeheartedly, his personal charisma might be something that others could never hope to achieve. Chapter 1161. In the morning, the Dragon Cavalry Regiment and the Heavenly Xingtian Army had officially wiped out the pirates in Shihai Harbor. Nearly 5,000 warships had nowhere to escape. Thousands of pirates were driven ashore, and all the warships, large and small, were pulled into the harbor and temporarily became the property of the Qin Empire. In the afternoon, Situ Sen held Iron Helmet in his arms and walked into the main hall with his head held high. He knelt on one knee and said respectfully, "Your Highness, the pirate warships of the southern islands have all been gathered around the harbor and the nearby islands. Thousands of pirates are on their way back. Should we execute them along the way and let the people see the final fate of the pirates?" Qin Yin stood in front of the throne and shook her head. "Forget it, the pirates are no longer a threat. Let these pirates join the army. At least they still have some strength." Yes. After Situ Sen joined the army, Ding Shi stepped out and cupped his hands. "Your Highness, we have cleared out the provisions. Longxi has hoarded nearly 2 million dawn of provisions in Qianshan City. They are well preserved, enough for our army to use for a season." "Okay," Qin Yin smiled and said, "Thank you for your hard work, Commander Ding Shi. It is my honor to serve the Empire." Qin Yin looked at Lin Muyu and said, "Lin General, now that Qianshan City has been stabilized, the land, taxes and officials have been re-registered and rewarded, what should we do next?" Lin Muyu, who was thinking about the Battle of Shiping City, was startled and said, "Your Highness, I believe that Qianshan City is not an impregnable fortress. Our army only took 2 hours to capture the city, and to the east of Qianshan City, Hongyan Province and Liaoyuan Xingxing are watching covetously. Hisong's 200,000 wolf soldiers are not to be trifled with. If we do not destroy Hisong's 200,000 wolf soldiers, we will not be able to gain a foothold in the territory of the Blackstone Empire." Tang Xiaoxi, who was next to the Empress, was slightly stunned and said, "Shiping City is under attack. Are we really not going to help General Feng? We have to believe that General Feng can resist." Lin Muyu said, "Moreover, we don't need all 400,000 troops to attack Hisong. I only need to lead 150,000 Longdan army camp and 50,000 Baizei mercenaries to attack. The remaining 100,000 elites and surrendered soldiers can be led by a general to reinforce Shiping City and help General Feng." Qin Yin pursed her red lips and said, "The war is urgent. Who can take on the responsibility?" Qin Yong, Qin Xiaoli and Tang Jin almost stepped out at the same time, cupped their fists and said, "This subject is willing to go." "Commander." Qin Yin was a little hesitant and looked at Muyu. "Commanders," Lin Muyu said, "Muyu is his commander. Feng Commander Sect Division, Dynasty and King Dynasty Ming Qi is Sect is Ming City." "Oh. Qian Feng," Lin Muyu said in a deep voice. All the generals looked at Lin Muyu and Qian Feng. After all, Qian Feng was a surrendered general. Now Lin Muyu actually wanted to hand over 200,000 troops to Qian Feng. This was very surprising. "Marshal, I'm afraid this isn't very appropriate, right?" Tang Jin said tactfully, although Marshal Qian Feng's military strategy is outstanding, he has always been in Bahuang Province and isn't familiar with human life. In fact, Tang Jin didn't say it out loud. Those who aren't of the same race are bound to have different intentions. But Lin Muyu smiled faintly and said, "How can there be no clothes? I am robed with my son. When the Qinji Empire invaded, Qian Feng was already one of us. If he didn't fight to the death to delay the main force of the Qinji Empire in Bahuang Province, our Qin Empire would have been destroyed. I believe in Qian Feng and I believe in the loyalty forged by sword and blood. Qian Feng is a member of the Empire. Every one of his subordinates is also a citizen of the Empire. They are all our comrades." Qian Feng's eyes were cold. He knelt on one knee and said to Qin Yin, "Qian Feng swears to never betray your highness and the Empire. I won't hesitate to go through fire and water. If I violate this oath, I will die without a complete corpse." Qin Yin nodded. "Commander Qian Feng, please rise. Lin General trusts you and so do I. Thank you, your highness." Lin Muyu cleared her throat and said, "Then it's decided. Qian Feng will be the main commander, Qin Xiaoli will be the vanguard, Qin Yong will be the left, Tang Jin will be the right, Qin Yan will be the rear, and Ding Shi will be in charge of logistics. Immediately lead 200,000 troops to reinforce Shiping City. Remember to arrive before Shiping City falls. Don't disappoint your highness." "Understood." The 6 commanders knelt together and said in unison. Lin Muyu was a subject and didn't say anything. She just tucked the golden helmet under her armpit and said to Si Kongyao, Weicho, Situ Sen and the others, "Prepare the provisions. We will set off tomorrow morning to attack Hongyan province and fight it out with Hisong's 200,000 wolf soldiers." Yes. At this moment, the 500,000 troops of the Qin Empire in the Celestial Pole continent were divided into 3 groups. Before dusk, the various prefectures and prefectures of Liaishan province sent their surrender reports one after another. The civil and military officials would arrive at Qianshan City in a day or two to pay their respects to the Empress. Therefore this time, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi had to stay in Qianshan City to manage the internal affairs while Lin Muyu was in charge of the external affairs and led 200,000 elites to attack the city. At night, the snow stopped and the clouds dispersed. Under the starlight, rows of armored cavalry had already left the city and headed north. They were the vanguard of the reinforcement army, led by Qin Xiaoli. From the high platform in the palace, one could see everything outside the city. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin stood side by side and watched the brave warriors of the empire begin their new journey. "I don't know if General Feng can withstand 500,000 troops." Qin Yin's eyes were full of worry. "He will." Lin Muyu said softly, "Who is Big Brother Feng?" "Is the invincible Feng Jixing. Besides, with the heavy artillery and the Imperial Guards, I believe that he can definitely defend Shiping City. Furthermore, the reinforcements will arrive in 3 to 5 days. Don't worry so much." "What about you?" Qin Yin turned around and looked at him. The starlight shone on the swirling tears in her eyes as she said in a sobbing tone, "You almost died in the battle of the 10-kilometer valley. What will happen to the attack on Hongyan province this time? Brother, you are no longer a god. You are just a mortal. Why do you still treat yourself like a god and risk your life?" Lin Muyu felt a pain in her heart. She stepped forward to hold her shoulders and said, "Xiaoyin, this is the path that we have chosen. Once we have chosen it, there is no turning back. Whether it is a mountain of knives, a sea of fire, or a hell on earth, I will continue on. Don't worry, Hisong's wolf soldiers aren't as powerful as you think. I will definitely be fine." "You say that every time." Qin Yin's eyes were misty as she looked at him and said softly, "You are so arbitrary every time. You left the Dragon League Masters in Qianshan City. What will you do then? What if Longxi doesn't leave? Will you be able to withstand his attack?" "I won't. Don't I still have Wei Chou, Si Kongyao and Situ Sin by my side?" Qin Yin did not speak anymore. She turned around and looked at the darkness in the distance. Under the cool breeze, she sobbed softly. Lin Muyu did not know how to comfort her. After returning from Earth, Qin Yin began to worry about personal gains and losses. She could not be blamed for this. After seeing the beautiful life, she naturally cherished the people around her even more. "This is a crucial battle." Lin Muyu said softly, "Xiaoyin, think about it. If I can defeat Hisong's wolf soldiers in Hongyan province, then the war within the territory of the Blackstone Empire can be quelled. The hundreds of city passes on the eastern border of the Blackstone Empire can act as a barrier to resist the threat from the direction of the Celestial Empire. The 3 major provinces and Xishan province can provide us with an endless supply of food. We can then establish a foundation in this foreign land. This is a crucial battle. We cannot avoid it. We can only face it." "I know," Qin Yin murmured. "Promise me come back safe and sound." "Yes, I promise you." "Look me in the eyes and say it again, okay?" "Yes." However, when Lin Muyu lowered his head and looked at Qin Yin's watery eyes, he suddenly had mixed feelings. His nose turned sour and he almost cried. He held Qin Yin's little hand tightly and whispered, "Qin Yin, I don't understand why I love you so much, but I just love you. I'm going to patrol the barracks. I'll set off tomorrow at dawn. You don't have to send me off." After saying that, he jumped off the platform and disappeared into the night after a few leaps. He left the city. The Longdan army camp was set up outside the city. Qin Yin stared blankly at his receding figure. Her tears flowed silently. She understood him. He did not want to carry a trace of worry. What was needed in war was a heart of steel, not a heart as soft as water. "What a heartless guy," a voice came from behind. Qin Yin knew who it was without looking back. She wiped her tears and said, "Sister Chuyao, why are you here?" "I was worried about you, so I came to see. Did I disturb you?" "No." Chuyao, dressed in a white dress, was as spotless as a snow lotus in a cold palace. She walked leisurely to the edge of the platform and kicked the snow with her white boots. "Don't feel sad. He is a famous general born for war. He won the world for you. You should feel happy. There will not be a second man in the world who will treat you like this. I know. Qin suddenly felt a little tired. She sat quietly in the snow with her arms around her knees. Chu Yao also sat down with her and said, Xishan province and Hongyan province are at war. I don't know how many people will die in this war. Now the spring plowing festival has passed, but there is no sign of spring recovering. I don't know how long the winter will last. Qin was speechless. Xiaoyin, you should feel happy. You are waiting for him to come back with glory. Chu Yao laughed at herself and said, compared to you, others are not so lucky. For example, what about me? What am I waiting for? Waiting for my brother to come back? Qin's eyes turned red. I'm sorry, Sister Chu Yao. Why are you sorry? Chu Yao pursed her lips and faintly smiled. Everything is predestined. Following the will of the heavens is the only thing we can do. It's cold outside. Let's go back? You are the Empress, graceful and noble. You can't be willful like a little girl. Chapter 1162. On the 14th of January, Yang Shang led the army personally. The Eastcom Army, Thunder Spirit Army, Divine Feather Army and Heaven's End Army, a total of 550,000 soldiers besieged Shiping City. In the morning after the sun rose, the war drums thundered. The entire Shiping City was surrounded so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. The outside of the city was densely packed with the Shang army, while inside the city, there were only tens of thousands of Imperial Guards and Mingshan province elites. The rest were injured soldiers, the old, the weak and the disabled. On the city tower, Feng Jixing wore the vice-marshal's cloak and looked at the Shang army's battle formation in the distance with his hand cupping his eyes. He couldn't help but take a deep breath and said, "Oh my God, there are 100,000 people outside the northern city alone." At the side, Jianghu said, "There is news from all four sides of the city wall. Our positions in the outer city have all been captured. This time, Yangshang has mobilized 500,000 real troops." "How is our defense situation?" Feng Jixing asked. Xiangyu said lightly, "There are 30,000 troops assigned to each city gate. As for the 60,000 reserves, we haven't used them yet. They are all recruits who have just been recruited and don't have much combat power. Sending them would just be sending them to their deaths." "I know." Feng Jixing said in a low voice, "Has the wind attribute raw stone been placed?" Guanxing nodded. Senior Luo Tianji said that it was launched 2 hours ago. "It is not suitable for us to send any aerial troops. It is the same for Yushu. He will be easily killed by the wind saws." "That's good." Feng Jixing's eyes were filled with ridicule as he smiled. "Since Yangshang wants to attack the city so much, let them come. Guanxing, you will guard the southern city. Zhangwei, you will guard the western city. Luoyu Linsun, you will guard the eastern city." "Yes." After assigning the generals, Feng Jixing took an apple from the fruit platter behind him and took a big bite. He turned around and sat on the city wall with a provocative smile in his eyes. "Prepare for battle. Fire the cannons when the enemy is 2,000 meters away. Fire the ballistae when the enemy is 500 meters away. Fire the oil in the moat when the enemy is 100 meters away. Draw your swords when the enemy is 10 meters away." "Yes, Vice Marshal." Everyone nodded in unison. Xiangyu smiled faintly. "What are you laughing at?" Feng Jixing glanced at him. Xiangyu smiled and said, "In the entire world only you, Feng Jixing, can fight like this. However, this general wholeheartedly accepts your defeat. It is not a coincidence that a person like you can win every battle." "What are you talking about? You really don't know how to speak." Feng Jixing mumbled to himself for a while before shouting, "Pass down my order. Anyone who kills one enemy will be rewarded with 100 Jinin coins. Anyone who kills 2 enemies will be promoted by 1 level. Anyone who kills 5 enemies will be promoted by 3 levels. So on and so forth until I can no longer give you a promotion. If you kill 100 people, I'll give you the mansion I secretly bought in Lanyan City. Kill 1,000 people and I'll give all my concubines to you." Everyone burst into laughter. A centurion laughed and said, "Commander, you don't even have a concubine. Besides, aren't you afraid that Her Highness Ing will accuse you of accepting bribes?" "What's there to be afraid of, Her Highness Ing? She's my sister-in-law." "Damn it, that's what you should be asking. Sit tight on your cannon platform. Don't let a magic crystal cannon blast you backwards." "Yes, Commander." As the enemy approached, the magic crystal cannons on the city walls began to fire. Beautiful purple flowers bloomed on the plains in the distance. However, there were too few magic crystal cannons in Shiping City, and their ammunition was almost exhausted. Therefore they could only serve as a deterrent. As for killing the enemy, they had to wait for them to get closer. Below the city walls, the sound of the war drums grew more intense. The Shang army's siege weapons appeared and approached the city under the protection of countless heavily shielded cavalry. Ballisti. Feng Jixing waved his hand. Immediately, a type of defense weapon made of steel began to fire. Huge rocks were shot out. Due to the height of the city, the projectiles could reach a distance of several hundred meters. Furthermore, they were all round rocks. Bang bang bang, huge rocks fell on the crowd below the city walls and rolled rapidly, crushing the Shang army soldiers into meat paste. Screams of pain rang out incessantly. Soon, the enemy's battle formation began to fall into disorder. "They're getting closer," Jianghu said in a deep voice. Feng Jixing raised his arm and threw away the apple core. Crossbows, prepare to shoot. On the city walls, a dense number of archers were already in position. They pulled out their bows and layers and prepared to shoot. The city walls of Shiping City were very thick. There were a total of 10 layers of archers, which meant that they could fire 10 rounds of arrows in a minute. One could well imagine how powerful they were. Even the arrow boxes, stone cannons and other weapons were pushed out. "Fire!" Jianghu roared. In an instant, countless arrows fell from the sky like a swarm of locusts. Below the city walls, most of the soldiers did not have shields and could only use their flesh and blood to block the arrows. After all, forging a shield required a large amount of steel. However, there was not that much steel in the celestial pole continent. It was simply impossible to equip everyone with a shield. In the blink of an eye, there was a pile of corpses at the bottom of the city walls. However, the siege ladders and siege towers were getting closer and closer. Feng Jixing saw this and his gaze turned cold. He said, "Fire arrows, set them on fire." After a round of fire arrows, the siege towers caught fire one after another. However, the effect was clearly not that good. By the time the siege towers caught fire, they had already approached the city walls and lowered their slabs. Jianghu narrowed his eyes and said, "We can't hold them off anymore. Use the heavenly book." Feng Jixing roared, "Wind-type heavenly book, aim at the siege towers." Yes. Some of the experts from the Dragon League activated the energy of the heavenly book. Suddenly, a storm erupted in the air and swept forward. The biting cold wind blades were unstoppable and turned the siege towers into dust. The soldiers wielding long swords in the siege towers also died tragically, their bodies a bloody mess. "They have reached the moat. Fire!" Feng Jixing ordered. The fire arrows were fired and the moat was immediately set ablaze. Some of the Shang army soldiers who were caught off guard immediately fell into the sea of fire. Soon a strong burning smell spread in the air. The entire Shiping City was in the midst of war. The kingdom of Shang had already sent several times the number of the enemy to attack the city. It seemed like they were determined to win. However, the fierce battle continued until dusk. The Shang army was still stopped at the moat. They couldn't even get close to the city walls. Finally, a dragon's roar came from the sky in the distance. They had mobilized the dragon cavalry regiment. "They're here." Feng Jixing immediately ordered, "Dragon-hunting crossbows, sky-shooting cannons, get ready." The soldiers on the city walls raised their weapons and faced the enemies in the sky. The huge figures swooped down one after another. As usual, dragon flames surged from the necks of the huge dragons, waiting for the most powerful attack on the ground. However, before the huge dragons could approach the ground, there were suddenly popping sounds. The tough dragon armors were directly torn apart, and the dragon riders died in the air one after another. They were like flies that had been electrocuted, and they continuously fell into the city. "Ha ha ha." Jianghu laughed heartily. Feng Jixing couldn't help but laugh as well. "I've seen rain in my life, but I've never seen a dragon cavalry regiment in the rain. How rare." At this moment, all of the generals in the Shang army camp were shocked. "What's going on? Why did more than half of our dragon cavalry die in an instant?" Yangshan was shocked. "It seems to be some kind of powerful barrier," Qinyu said. "Recall the dragon cavalry regiment immediately." Sun Shi's gaze was gloomy. "Your Majesty, sound the gongs to retreat. It's going to be night soon. Our army isn't prepared enough. We can't attack the city during the night. Let's fight tomorrow at dawn." "Damn it." Yangshan clenched his teeth and said, "I'm going to die from anger, I'm going to die from anger." Qin Yu smiled faintly. Your Majesty, this subject has a plan. Please speak, Marshal. Your Majesty, do you still remember the plan that Lord Sun Shi once proposed? The Empire's defeated army was released by Lin Muyu. Now this subject has secretly ordered a portion of the defeated army to return to Shiping City. These people have already been taken in by Feng Jixing and formed into a 5,000-man patrol army. During the day, it will be Feng Jixing's army that will defend the city, but at night, it will be these 5,000-man patrol army that will stand guard. This subject has already made an agreement with the city guards. At midnight we will light a fire as a signal. They will open the city gates and cooperate with us to break through the city. No matter how powerful Feng Jixing is at defending the city, he won't be able to defeat our 200,000-man cavalry in urban warfare. Marshal, are you confident? This subject is willing to personally lead the troops to attack the city. That's good. Yangshang narrowed his eyes. We will wait here to celebrate Marshal's success. Yes, then this subject will go and prepare. The bright starlight shone on the city walls. Most of the soldiers had already fallen asleep. A cool breeze blew gently. In the corridor of the city tower, a square table was placed there. On it were a few dishes and a pot of flower wine. Feng Jixing used the light from the lantern to search for the rare green beans with his chopsticks. He looked very carefully. Jianghu sat opposite him with a calm gaze, drinking cup after cup of wine. At this moment, Guanxing, dressed in a long gown, walked over and said, Commander, this subordinate has already made arrangements. There are many soldiers lying in ambush in the 4 barbicans. They are using the best white drill arrows. Very good. Feng Jixing nodded. Guanxing frowned and said, but this subordinate does not understand. Why are you so sure that these surrendered soldiers are pretending to surrender? Logically or emotionally, there are no signs of them pretending to surrender. The Great Qin Empire's battle on the East Sea has settled the situation. It is reasonable for them to submit to us. Moreover, it is only natural for them to surrender in order to earn a living. Feng Jixing smiled faintly. Guanxing, you only know the art of war, but you do not understand the trifling common sense. Please enlighten me, Commander. It's very simple. Feng Jixing put down his chopsticks and said, just because they left and returned, it must be a fake surrender. There is no such logic in the world. If they wanted to surrender, they would have done so long ago. Why wait until they left and then come back? Sun Shi and Qin Yu think that they are using extraordinary tactics and will definitely win, but they forget that there is common sense in the world. If they go against common sense, it will be too easy to see through them. Guanxing was stunned and couldn't help but laugh. This subordinate was too careless. It is really shameful. Go and make the arrangements. After the battle, just tell me how many people you killed. Yes. Chapter 1163. That night, the Barbican was ablaze with fire. Thousands of arrows were fired. The white diamond arrows were powerful enough to penetrate armor and shields. Even those wearing heavy armor could not escape. The sounds of killing continued until dawn. There was no one left alive in the Barbican. At daybreak, Feng Jixing personally inspected the battlefield. Snow fell from the sky once again. The flying snow melted with the blood on the ground, forming a depth of 2 centimeters. A portion of Feng Jixing's combat boots was submerged in the blood. Corpses were piled up all around the Barbican. Many soldiers were pulling arrows from the corpses. The white diamond arrows were very precious and had to be retrieved. Guanxing and Lin Sun followed closely behind. Guanxing said, Commander, you have foresight. They are indeed here. Lin Sun said, Commander, we did not find Qin Yu's corpse. However, a soldier said last night that Qin Yu was shot by more than 1 arrow. With Qin Yu's cultivation, he might not be able to survive even if we save him. Qin Yu escaped. Feng Jixing looked disappointed. What he wanted to see the most in this battle was Qin Yu being shot dead. After all, Qin Yu was the real enemy. If it was just Yangshang, it would be nothing. Lin Sun continued, they launched a surprise attack from 3 Barbican. There are more than 13,000 corpses in the Barbican. Most of them are cavalrymen. It seems that Qin Yu planned to use the cavalry to launch a surprise attack on Shiping Prefecture and take us down in one fell swoop. Fortunately, we were prepared. Besides, the 5,000 surrendered soldiers have been taken down. What should we do with them? Kill them, Feng Jixing said calmly. He then turned to look into the distance and said, with Qin Yu's defeat, there will be an even more tragic siege this morning. Pass down the order. Prepare the 3 armies for battle. Yes. Not long after, the war drums rumbled. In the distance below the city, heavy-duty projectors appeared and threw burning oil cans into the city. Not long after, Shiping City was engulfed in flames. On the second day of the siege, the Shang army attacked with fire. Organized the people in the city to carry water to put out the fire. Feng Jixing's gaze was indifferent as he said, "Don't panic. The archers must not stop shooting. We can't let them get close to the city. Once the fire attack is over, it will be the latter attack." "Yes, Commander." Guanxing swept his gaze across the area, and the 3 Kiliarchs acknowledged the order and left. As expected, after nearly 2 hours of continuous bombardment, the drums of the Shang army started beating in unison. Ladders and siege towers once again appeared in the ranks. Although over 100 of these machines had been destroyed yesterday, another one had appeared today. It seemed like they had long been prepared. "How long do you think they'll last?" Feng Jixing asked. Guanxing's gaze was like a torch as he said, "The Shang army has as many as 500,000 men and horses. After yesterday's attack and night raid, they suffered about 50,000 casualties. I believe that Yangshang must have given a death order to take down Shiping Prefecture within a limited time. Otherwise, these soldiers wouldn't be working so hard. Based on this momentum, it won't be a problem for them to attack for half a month." Feng Jixing frowned and said, "It's a pity that our supplies can't last that long." "Commander, what's wrong?" "Half of the arrowheads, magic crystal crossbows and arrow boxes have been used up yesterday. There are less than 2,000 magic crystal cannons left, and a lot of the heavenly books have been used up. The Shang army can continue to attack for half a month, but we can only hold on for 3 days at most." Lin Sun frowned and said, "Commander, after today's battle, I will lead the reserve troops out of the city to pull out the arrows. Even if we are ambushed, only the reserve troops will die." "Pull out the arrows out of the city?" Feng Jixing said calmly, "Do you know what will happen if they launch a surprise attack?" Lin Sun smiled and said, "But what does it matter? Since I am loyal to Her Highness, it is my honor to die in battle for the Empire. It is also the honor of a soldier." "Proved. Be careful when you leave the city. It doesn't matter if the reserve troops die, but you can't die. Keep your life and prepare for the street battles after the city is breached." "Yes." The word "breached the city" was like a heavy hammer that fell on the hearts of Lin Sun, Guanxing, Zhang Wei and the others. Feng Jixing looked further ahead. Had he already predicted that Shiping City would definitely fall? Huge rocks smashed against the city walls, causing the outer walls of Shiping City to buzz. The people on the city walls seemed to have experienced a huge earthquake. The outer walls of the city walls were peeling off continuously, revealing the solid mud bricks made of clay and glutinous rice. No one had expected the inside of Shiping City's city walls to look like this. Feng Jixing and Xiangyu looked at each other in dismay. "What the hell is this?" Xiangyu asked. "Mud bricks. Many farmers' houses in the mountains are built this way. Mud mixed with glutinous rice will be very solid after it dries. It can be considered as one of the local customs of the celestial pole continent." "Is it stronger than a stone wall?" Xiangyu was somewhat annoyed. "No." Feng Jixing smiled and said, "As you can imagine, the original owner of Shiping City used the money saved from building the city walls to build an even more luxurious palace. The source of this money is obvious." "What a scam." Xiangyu gnashed his teeth. "Can this mud brick wall withstand the artillery fire of the Shang army?" "No, but it won't be destroyed in a short period of time." In the face of the enemy's fierce attack, Feng Jixing was still calm and unruffled. It was only when the Shang army in the distance began to use the corpses of their own soldiers to fill in the moat that Feng Jixing finally lost his composure. He frowned and said, "What kind of monsters are Yangshang's subordinates? They are really unscrupulous. Aren't they afraid of disappointing the morale of the army?" Lin Sun said, "After Yangshang became Emperor Shang, he has always ruled the country with iron laws. It is the same in the army. The hierarchy of superiors and subordinates is very strict. Even 10-man commanders have the authority to deal with the soldiers under their command at any time and place. The entire Shang army operates like a huge machine. Its purpose is only to attack and plunder. If it wasn't for the elites of our Qin Empire, I'm afraid that not many people in the world would be able to withstand it." Feng Jixing sneered. "Is someone like Yangshang worthy of being a god? I finally understand why the heavens want to deprive the gods of their power." "Commander, look over there." Lin Sun stretched out his hand and pointed into the distance. There, rows of soldiers holding silver shields left the central army in an orderly manner and went straight towards the direction of the city. Those soldiers looked very elite. The shields and silver steel swords in their hands were shining with a faint luster. "What army is that?" Feng Jixing asked. "Divine Feather Battalion." Xiangyu squinted his eyes and said, "It is the most elite army under Yangshang's command. It is the 50,000 Divine Feather Battalion led by the former battle angel Dora. Most of the people in the Divine Feather Battalion were originally from the Northern Heaven Realm. Their combat power is very amazing. Be careful. It seems that Yangshang has already planned to use the strongest army to attack the city." "Oh, so it seems that Yangshang has already lost his patience." Feng Jixing smiled faintly and said, "Lin Sun, go and gather the 5,000 Iron Armor Battalion of the Imperial Army to help me defend the city. In addition, stop shooting all the arrow boxes and replace them with white diamond arrows. Everyone, don't be stingy. Give me weapons tempered with white diamond." He suddenly pulled out the scarlet phoenix blade and stabbed it into the stone floor in the middle of the city wall. He said coldly, "Everyone listen to my orders. Do not let a single enemy cross this line. Otherwise don't be a soldier and go home to farm." Everyone was solemn. Xiangyu also held the bloodthirsty spear and said to the deputy general, "Go, bring my guard battalion here. We can't hold back anymore." "Yes, Commander." Not long after, almost all the guards on the city wall were changed. They were all elites of the Imperial Army and Mingshan Province's garrison. Feng Jixing and Xiangyu had almost taken out their trump cards. "Archers, keep shooting. Aim and shoot," Zhang Wei shouted. Ladders were placed on the edge of the city wall. They were too strong and could not be pushed down at all. The first batch of Shang soldiers had already been shot dead. In the distance, the Godly Feathers Battalion with silver shields and armor had arrived. They wore the emblem of wings on their shoulders. That was the symbol of the Godly Feathers Battalion, and it was also the symbol of their glory. "I'm afraid even silver weapons aren't that sturdy. A bunch of flashy but impractical fools," Zhang Wei said lightly. Lin Sun smiled and said, "That's not silver weapons but white steel that has a luster similar to silver. It's very sturdy. Long swords made of white steel can be said to be invincible. At the very least, it can cut inferior armor in half. Be careful, they're coming up." Arrows rained down on the city wall, but the majority of the Divine Feather Battalion were protected by their armor. Furthermore, their combat quality was very high. They climbed the ladders with one hand and raised their shields with the other, deflecting the arrows from the archers on the city wall. Unless it was a strong archer with godly strength in both arms, even white diamond arrows couldn't pierce through the white steel. Spears. At Lin Sun's command, a group of spearmen raised their 3-meter-long iron spears and stabbed at the Divine Feather Battalion soldiers on the ladders. However, most of the Divine Feather Battalion soldiers were originally gods, so they weren't that easy to kill. They blocked the spears with their swords and charged forward. "How can we do this?" "Shoot them with the boxes of arrows," Feng Jixing shouted. A row of boxes of arrows was placed horizontally, and after a round of fierce shooting, the Divine Feather Battalion soldiers fell from the city wall one after another, covered in blood. Even their battle armor and white steel armor couldn't save their lives. Ha! Atop the ladders, Duo La looked up at the corpses of the Divine Feather Battalion soldiers falling from the city wall, and his face immediately turned livid. "Charge! Hurry up! We have to finish this quickly." A dense group of Divine Feather Battalion soldiers charged straight up the city wall. Buzz! A King Do Yen rushed up the city wall. It was a general of the Divine Feather Battalion with a high cultivation base. He held a steel sword in his hand and continuously killed 3 Imperial Army soldiers. His face was ferocious as he sneered, "You trash want to stop me?" Clang! Feng Jixing pulled out the Crimson Phoenix saber from the ground and the Azure Dragon saber in his left hand. He shouted, "F***CK Grandma Li. Come at me." The general also laughed heartily and charged over while waving his long sword. Chapter 1164. Bang! A huge wave of King's battle flames swept out. Feng Jixing's strength was obviously inferior to the opponent's, and he was shaken several steps back, but the opponent was not much better. Feng Jixing's martial god art was very powerful, and the power penetrated into his arms, making him feel as if his strength was being devoured, and his face was slightly shocked. "What are you waiting for? Armor-piercing bow?" Feng Jixing shouted. Behind him, more than a dozen soldiers of the Iron Armor camp raised their black muzzles and fired at the Holy King Realm expert in front of them. Suddenly, bullets flew everywhere, and the Holy King Realm expert could only take out his battle armor to defend, but the scorching heat and armor-piercing power of the bullets made him extremely uncomfortable. After all, he was not at the Divine Realm and could not withstand such a barrage. After a round of shooting, Zhang Wei roared and swept his long saber across. "Bastard!" The opponent roared, grabbed Zhang Wei's long saber with one hand and said angrily, "Trash like you want to kill me?" Ka! With a crisp sound his head flew up and Feng Jixing's saber ended his life, and blood splashed all over Zhang Wei. "Do you still think this is a one-on-one fight?" Feng Jixing kicked his body and shouted, "Defend the city, kill." Waving the ice and fire blades in his hands, he advanced back and forth on the city walls, killing the soldiers of the Divine Feather Battalion one by one. As for Zhang Wei, Lin Sun and the rest, they became more and more courageous as they fought. One after another, the heavenly books blossomed on the city walls, sending off the soldiers of the Divine Feather Battalion who rashly rushed up the city walls. Hong! A burning light suddenly appeared on the city wall. It was Dora. 4 wings faintly condensed behind her, and the sharp sword in her hand was surrounded by the power of the law of black light. As soon as she appeared, she killed many people in succession, forcing a group of Imperial Army soldiers to retreat again and more soldiers of the Divine Feather Battalion behind her, gathered in the blink of an eye, and had a great momentum. Feng Jixing raised his 2 sabers and charged over. At the same time, Xiangyu also roared and transformed into a flaming beam of light that shot toward Dora. In the past, Xiangyu had been defeated by Duo La. This was the disgrace of his life. Iron Shield formation, press forward. Lin Sun ordered loudly. On the city wall, countless soldiers of the Iron Armored camp rushed up with their heavy shields, trying to push down the soldiers of the Divine Feather Battalion who had rushed up the city wall. In the air, Feng Jixing and Xiangyu had already fought many rounds with Duo La. The 2 of them were fighting against one, but they were unable to gain the upper hand. Duo La's strength was maintained at the Holy King Realm, which was obviously a level higher than theirs. Lin Sun sheathed his sword and snatched a bow from his subordinate. He knocked an arrow and shot. Whoosh! The arrow pierced through the air with an ear-piercing sound as it headed straight for Dora's neck. Ha! Dora was startled and hurriedly dodged with his battle flames, but Feng Jixing's Crimson Phoenix saber swept across his body, shattering his battle armor. Combined with Xiang Yu's spear, which was imbued with the power of his martial soul, even someone as powerful as Duo La was blasted off the city wall. The shield formation continued to press forward, and cold gun muzzles extended from between the shields. They fired a volley of bullets at the Divine Feather Battalion. Instantly, those with lower cultivation were shot to death, and blood flowed all over the ground. Coupled with Feng Jixing's heaven-devouring demonic saber, a violent storm surged, and dozens of Divine Feather Battalion soldiers fell off the city wall. Just like that, the first wave of attacks was repelled. Feng Jixing panted heavily. Blood seeped from his arm through his white robe. That was a wound caused by Duo La's sword. Add fuel to all the scaling ladders and burn them. He ordered loudly, his forehead dripping with cold sweat. Xiangyu wasn't much better off. There were 2 sword wounds on his shoulder. Although the wounds weren't deep, if it weren't for Lin Sun's sword, he might have been killed by Duo La. Woo woo! In the distance, the sound of Shang Army's horn to retreat could be heard. Duo La gritted his teeth and returned to the formation. He led a group of Divine Feather Battalion soldiers to Yangshang and asked in confusion, "Marshal, why did you order us to retreat? Give me another chance. The Divine Feather Battalion will definitely be able to take the city." "We know." Yangshang's gaze was indifferent. "Give us another chance. The Divine Feather Battalion will naturally be able to take the city wall, but they will also lose a large number of warriors. We can't let these disciples of the immortal realm die in vain at the hands of mortals, so let the mortals attack. Duo La, come sit beside me. You just need to watch the battle. Your Majesty, please give me another chance. Come sit beside me. Do you want to defy the imperial decree?" Yangshang's gaze was burning. Duo La didn't dare to say anything else and returned to Yangshang's side. Yangshang narrowed his eyes and looked at the group of civil and military officials. "We have personally led the troops here for 2 days, but we still haven't been able to take Shiping City. There are only 2 troops, Feng Jixing and Xiangyu, in this city. They aren't the most elite troops of the Qin Empire, the Longdan Army camp. Moreover, we haven't been able to take it down after such a long time. If Lin Muyu were to come, what would happen?" Everyone hurriedly knelt down and said in unison, "We are incompetent. We are guilty of the death penalty." "That's right. You are guilty of the death penalty," Yang Shang sneered. "Last night, Marshal Qin Yu's sneak attack was seen through and he was ambushed. He was also wounded by an arrow. Who else has a good plan to take the city?" The second strategist, Gong Bujin, said in a low voice, "Your Majesty, I have a plan. However, I'm afraid it will take some time." "Speak." Shiping City is low-lying. The Lu River, which is 20 li away, has been filled with water due to the melting of the snow. If our army excavates the Lu River and diverts the water to Shiping City, we can drown Shiping City at least 3 meters deep. Even if we can't drown Feng Jishing to death, we can at least deplete the rations and equipment in the city. All we have to do is wait. Within half a month, Feng Jishing's army will definitely be defeated. Yang Shang was silent. The injured Qin Yu coughed and frowned. "This is a vicious plan. Your Majesty, you must not adopt it." "Why, Marshal?" "There are millions of civilians in Shiping City. Once Shiping City is flooded, the ones who will die are the civilians. They were originally your Majesty's subjects." "Subjects?" Yang Shang smiled. "They are but ants. If Marshal Qin Yu doesn't have a better plan, why don't our army try Mr. Gong Bujin's plan? What do you think?" Qin Yu frowned. After some thought, he said, "I have an idea. Let's do as Gong Bujin says. Our army will no longer besiege the city. The 3 armies will retreat to high ground and send a large number of soldiers to excavate the Lu River." Gong Bujin couldn't help but laugh. "Marshal Qin Yu, this is clearly my plan. Why do you say it's yours?" "This is only one of the reasons." Qin Yu smiled faintly and cupped his hands in greeting to Yang Shang. "Your Majesty, our army has a total of 500,000 soldiers. We can store all of our rations in Huoshi Commandery, which is 15 kilometers north of Shiping City. The 3 armies will dig the Lu River. Who do you think Feng Jishing is? Once he learns of this, he will definitely not sit and wait for death. Furthermore, both Feng Jishing and Lin Muyu are famed generals for raiding rations. I believe that they will definitely send elite troops out of the city to launch a sneak attack on Huoshi Commandery. Our army can then set up an ambush in Huoshi Commandery and defeat Feng Jishing's elite troops in one fell swoop. Then we can follow up our victory and attack Shiping City. What a good move to advance by retreating." Yang Shang laughed heartily. "With Marshal Qin Yu around, I have nothing to worry about. Men, do as I say. Order the 3 armies to stop attacking the city and retreat to higher ground. Send all of our rations and supplies to Huoshi Commandery." "Yes, Your Majesty." It was nighttime. Heavy snow swirled in the air and Shiping City was deathly silent. "I order Zhang Wei to lead 30,000 men and set off at midnight for Huoshi Prefecture with great fanfare. However, they are not to enter within a 5-kilometer radius of Huoshi Prefecture. The Winged Clan will mainly set the area on fire in the sky." "Yes, Commander is wise. This subordinate will get to it immediately." "Don't be in a hurry to leave. There is still a second order. Qi Shiping Prefecture's 30,000 cavalrymen are to launch a surprise attack on the Shang army's camp at night. Since Yang Shang has set the bait in Fire County, I will take the bait at Lu River. They will definitely not be on guard." Feng Jishing stood up and looked in the direction of Lu River, his cloak fluttering in the wind. Guan Xing stood there in a daze. As the saying goes, the art of war is deceitful. He finally understood what was going on. Chapter 1165. After nightfall, there was no light in the starry night. The entire West Mountain province was shrouded in the curtain of darkness. In Huoshi Prefecture, a flock of crows remained silent on the withered branches. Every now and then, a flock of them would take flight. The entire Huoshi Prefecture was filled with soldiers from all directions. Yang Shang had deployed a total of 300,000 elite soldiers to ambush them here. But after a long while, all they heard was the clamor of Zhang Wei's troops from afar. Not a single person entered Huoshi Prefecture's granaries. Not long after, beams of light descended from the sky. These were the kindling materials thrown down by the Wing tribe. The granaries caught fire one after another. Because they had been piled up in a hurry, most of the granaries were connected together. Once the fire started, it quickly spread. Under the tree, the distant flames illuminated Yang Shang's expression. He squinted his eyes and looked into the distance. Why haven't their aerial troops been attacked by the blades in the wind? Sun Shi frowned. I don't know either. Perhaps the blades are under Feng Jixing's control. Put out the fire immediately. Send the cavalry to flank the enemy from behind and kill them. Yes. At the same time, the camp on the banks of the Lu River was ablaze. Amidst the flames, the silhouettes of the Imperial Guards could be seen flying past. Feng Jixing was dressed in a white robe and personally led the troops to attack the camp. Wherever he passed, no one could stop him. The 30,000 cavalrymen killed whoever they saw. They broke through 3 camps in a row and killed countless enemies. Feng Jixing's 2 sabers were already dripping with blood. In a short 2 hours, the 30,000 cavalrymen had crushed the 100,000 soldiers on the banks of the river. The Imperial Army's cavalry moved like lightning, catching the enemy off guard. Originally, the Shang army had dragon riders as scouts. However, most of them had been killed by the windsaws, so they didn't dare to fly into the sky. As a result, they suffered a crushing defeat tonight. Feng Jixing looked at the sky. 2 hours had passed. He raised his bloodied crimson phoenix saber and shouted, "Retreat! The 3rd camp will take the lead, the 2nd in the middle, and the 3rd at the rear. Retreat to Shiping City at full speed." Yes. The drums rumbled. Not many of the 30,000 cavalrymen were killed. Like a gust of wind, they quickly disappeared into the night, leaving behind a messy Shang army campsite. At daybreak, the provisions camp in Huoshi Commandery was shrouded in smoke. The fire had finally been extinguished, but a large amount of provisions had been lost. In the central tent, Yang Shang, who had received the military report, trembled. His chest was blocked and he almost couldn't continue. He slammed the table with an ashen face and roared, "Why is it like this?" Lu River had nearly 200,000 infantrymen. How could they be defeated so easily? The commander, whose helmet was covered in blood, knelt on the ground trembling and said, "They came too fast and they were all well-equipped cavalry. We didn't even receive any news before all the cavalry were killed. It was only when we heard the sound of hooves that we knew the enemy had attacked our camp, but it was already too late. 3 camps were breached consecutively, and we suffered more than 60,000 casualties." Trash. A bunch of trash. Yang Shang flew into a rage. Sun Shi looked at the commander and said, "Your vigilance is too lax. What are you doing here? Are you waiting for His Majesty to chop off your head?" "Yes, this general will take his leave." He hurriedly left. How could this be? How could this be the result? Yang Shang looked confused. "We used Huoshi Commandery as bait, with 300,000 soldiers as bait, but why did Feng Jixing use 200,000 infantrymen as bait? Is there such a fish in the world that would take the bait?" Sun Shi said, "Your Majesty, I'm afraid that Marshal Qin Yu's plan has already been seen through by Feng Jixing. That's why Feng Jixing attacked while we were unprepared, killing countless of our men at Lu River." "Qin Yu, what do you say?" Yang Shang suddenly slammed the table with a murderous aura. Qin Yu sat there dejectedly and murmured, "This defeat is all my fault. I underestimated Feng Jixing's strategy. Your Majesty, please punish me." Qin Yu is willing to accept any punishment. "Men, remove Marshal Qin Yu's rank and demote him to Cheji General. I will temporarily take over the position of Marshal. Sun Shi will be the military advisor of the army. Immediately devise a plan to break through Shiping City." "Yes." Qin Yu knelt there quietly. He had been demoted by 2 ranks in an instant, but he was not angry. Instead he laughed. "What are you laughing at?" Yang Shang said coldly. Qin Yu said self-deprecatingly, "I am not a match for Lin Muyu or Feng Jixing. I deserve this outcome. Your Majesty is wise." Yang Shang's gaze swept across the crowd and said, "Let's discuss what we should do next. Our rations are already running low. Furthermore, Feng Jixing is currently at the peak of his power. I'm afraid we won't be able to take down Shiping City in a short period of time." Sun Shi said, "Marshal, Shiping City is also running low on rations. Even if Si Kongyao has hoarded a portion of rations, Shiping City's rations have always been supplied by the surrounding farms and counties. Almost every day there are caravans transporting rations into Shiping City. However, after we besieged the city, the supply from the merchant associations and the caravans has been cut off. The rations for nearly 2 million people in Shiping City is not a small number. As long as we surround Shiping City, I am certain that they will collapse on their own." Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, and the other generals from Shattered Cauldron Realm claim to be benevolent and righteous. They are not willing to eat humans, so they won't be able to hold out for long. Good. Immediately send orders to the surrounding counties to prepare rations. We can hold out, but Feng Jixing cannot. Yes. Yang Shang's gaze turned cold. He looked at Qinyu and said, General Qinyu, your hometown, Siringhan City, has always been famous for its abundance of rations. Since the front lines no longer need you, why don't General lead 500 cavalry back to Siringhan City and prepare rations on my behalf? The surrounding generals were stunned. Yang Shang wanted Yang Shang to be a rations officer. This was too humiliating. Marshal, Vice Commander of the Heaven's End Corps Wei Qiang, had an ugly expression as he called out to Qinyu in a low voice. Qinyu pretended not to hear. He lowered his head and kowtowed. Thank you, Your Majesty, for your trust. I will prepare rations as soon as possible and send them to the front lines. Good. Go. Give the Commander's seal of the Heaven's End Corps to Wei Qiang. The Corps will be under Wei Qiang's command for the time being. Yes. At noon in Qinyu's tent, he had already packed up and was ready to set out. Wah. The tent flap was suddenly opened. Two generals walked in with their hands on the hilt of their swords. One of them was the temporary commander of the Heaven's End Corps, Wei Qiang. The other had his head lowered and his face could not be seen. Raise your face, Qinyu said indifferently. That person raised his head. Instantly Qinyu was shocked. Zhou Binlong? It was Zhou Binlong, the general who guarded Siringhan City and commanded the 200,000-strong Earth's End Corps. Yes, General. Zhou Binlong and Wei Qiang knelt together. Your Majesty, we are all old subordinates of the Celestial Empire. Now that Your Majesty has suffered such humiliation, General Wei and I can't stand it anymore. As long as Your Majesty gives the order, we are willing to lead our troops to take back the entire Celestial Empire and restore the rule of our Celestial Empire. Are you all crazy? Qinyu asked indifferently. Wei Qiang shook his head. We are not crazy. Your Majesty, think about it. That was then and this is now. Back then, when Yang Shang had 60,000 celestial soldiers under his command, we naturally wouldn't be able to stop him. But now, all of Yang Shang's subordinates are mortals, and we have 400,000 soldiers under our command. In addition to the garrisons of the various provinces of the Celestial Empire, we have close to 1 million soldiers. Why should we lower ourselves to a despicable person like Yang Shang? This general has also seen the situation today. Victory and defeat are common in war. Yang Shang vented his anger on Your Majesty just because he lost. Such a person is not worthy of Your Majesty's loyalty. As long as Your Majesty says the word, we are willing to shed our blood and die 10,000 times over. Get up, everyone. Be careful that the walls have ears. Qinyu's gaze was indifferent as he said, this matter needs to be discussed at length. Wei Qiang, you must find a good opportunity to lead the 200,000 elites of the Heaven's End Corps back to our homeland. As for me, once I leave I will be like a dragon returning to the sea, a bird returning to the forest. I'm afraid I will never return. Rest assured, Your Majesty. Wei Qiang's gaze was burning as he said, this subject has just received news that Lin Muyu has already dispatched Qian Feng as the chief commander, with Qin Xiaoli, Qin Yan and Tang Zhen as the generals. They are leading a 200,000-strong army to reinforce Shiping City. They will arrive within 3 days. Once these 200,000 troops arrive, Feng Jixing will be able to launch a counterattack from within and without. When that time comes, the Shang army will likely fall into chaos. This subject will find an opportunity to feign defeat and lead the troops eastward to return to our homeland. Good. Qinyu said, Zhou Binlong, immediately dispatch a large number of troops to guard the pass outside the Forest of No Return and seal off the entire territory of the Celestial Empire. Issue my imperial edict. When Wei Qiang returns with the Heaven's End Corps, it will be the day our Celestial Empire reclaims our homeland. Yes. Phoenix Mountain was located at the border between the Liaishan Province and the Hongyan Province. It was named for the appearance of phoenixes, but that was an ancient legend. As for whether phoenixes actually existed, no one could say for sure. Fenghuang Mountain stretched for hundreds of miles, forming a natural barrier between the two provinces. In the middle of the mountain there was a stronghold called Fenghuang Pass. It was a huge stronghold that could accommodate 100,000 soldiers. Coincidentally, He Song had sent General Lin Shuang to lead 100,000 wolf soldiers to defend Fenghuang Pass. On the west side of the mountain range, the 200,000 elites under Lin Muyu's command had already set up camp. Banners fluttered in the wind as they formed a large line. It was an astonishing sight, but they wouldn't be able to take down Phoenix Mountain in a short period of time. The defending troops of Phoenix Mountain also didn't dare to act rashly. If they were to fight in the forest, it would only take a day for the Longdan army camp to devour the 100,000 wolf soldiers. A cool breeze blew gently in the afternoon. Above the mountain range, Lin Muyu led Wei Chou, Si Kongyao, Situ Sen, and the others to survey the terrain. From afar, Phoenix Pass looked like a colossus entrenched in the valley. The height of the fortress was at least 25 meters, which was very frightening. Moreover, the walls were all made of hard rocks mined from the ground, so one could imagine how sturdy it was. How many magic crystal cannons do we have? Lin Muyu asked. 220 cannons. Wei Chou replied. Do you think that 200 magic crystal cannons can destroy Phoenix Pass? He asked. It will be difficult. Si Kongyao shook her head and said, Brother, look, the outer wall of Phoenix Pass has a total of 3 layers. Our magic crystal cannons can at most penetrate 2 layers. Moreover, the wolf soldiers are well trained and are good at mounted archery and cavalry assaults. Their battle strength is much stronger than Longshi's Black Rock army. Yes. Lin Muyu looked into the distance. On the open area outside the pass, there were densely packed wolf soldiers training. The sound of hooves thundered and dust rose into the sky. The opponent this time was indeed very difficult. Chapter 1166. They're cursing at the top of their lungs, but the people in Phoenix Pass seem to have turned into cowards. Not a single one dares to fight. Damn it! Situ Sin sat down beside the commander's seat and gulped down the entire pot of water. Who's the commander in Phoenix Pass? Lin Muyu asked. Lin Shuang, a former commander of the Blackstone Empire. You can say that he's from the same family as you. Si Kongyao replied. Kindred, do you think I can persuade him to surrender by appealing to his emotions and reasoning? Forget it. He's Hisong's cousin. His relationship with him is much stronger than yours. You should have said so earlier. Lin Muyu looked at the terrain of Phoenix Pass on the sand table and remained silent. Can we send soldiers over Phoenix Mountain and launch a surprise attack? Situ Shui asked. No. Lin Muyu shook her head. Half of the wolf soldiers are cavalry. Sending a small number of foot soldiers would be suicide. Let's think of another way. Why don't we try attacking tomorrow? Wei Chou asked. Yes, let's try. The next day, the Longdan army camp quickly attacked Phoenix Pass. However, they retreated in just 2 hours. Wei Chou hugged his helmet and walked into the commander's tent with a gloomy face. No, we can't break in. The magic crystal cannons have already turned the walls into pockmarks, but they still can't collapse. If only Qian Feng's giant flying snakes were here. If a few of them were to attack, I'm afraid Phoenix Pass would be razed to the ground in the blink of an eye. How many people did we lose? 700. 700 people in just a short while? Lin Muyu frowned. We can't continue fighting like this. The morale of the army will be in chaos before we even reach Red Rock City. That's right. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment before raising her head and asking, what is Hisong doing in Red Rock City? As for Hisong, he is the valley master of the Wolf Valley. He has always been content with his own territory. Now that he has obtained the strong city of Red Rock City, he spends every day seeking pleasure. He also sends people to search for strong men to sacrifice in order to obtain more wolf soldiers. These wolf soldiers have astonishing battle strength and are born with divine strength. They are also quite bloodthirsty. Once they enter the battlefield, they become like wild beasts. How do they compare to the elites of the Longdan army camp? In terms of individual combat ability, he is superior. Wei Chou said, fortunately, not all the 200,000 wolf soldiers under Hisong are real wolf soldiers. Only about half of them have obtained the secret sacrificial technique of the Wolf Valley and are real wolf soldiers. How many true wolf soldiers does Lin Shuang have in Phoenix Pass? About 20,000. This will be troublesome, Wei Chou said. My lord, forgive me for speaking bluntly. If it is a frontal battle, our army's battle strength is not inferior to the wolf soldiers. But when it comes to defending the city, the wolf soldiers have astonishing arm strength and excellent archery skills. Of the 700 Longdan army camp soldiers that died in battle, most of them were killed by sharp arrows. In a siege battle, we are definitely not a match for the wolf soldiers. Si Kongyao blinked her eyes and said, I am afraid that the news of our arrival at Phoenix Pass will quickly spread to Red Rock City. At that time, if Hisong reinforcements his troops, our chances of victory will be even lower. That's right. Lin Muyu said in a low voice, we must end this battle quickly and take down Phoenix Pass. Oh. Situ Sin asked. In the afternoon you will lead 5,000 men and continue to attack the city. Do not attack by force, feign an attack and try to reduce the losses. Is it because I spoke too much? That's right. Wei Chou smiled. Milord, do you have an idea? No idea, but if we continue to attack for a long time without success, Lin Shuang's troops will become arrogant. They will think that our army is tired and lacking in battle strength. This way, perhaps they will be able to take advantage of this. We will attack for 2 days and on the 3rd day, we will break camp and retreat 10 li before setting up camp. Wei Chou's eyes lit up. Ha! Milord, are you planning to use arrogant tactics? That's right, we can only lure Lin Shuang's troops out and exterminate them. Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes, but the key is whether or not Lin Shuang is a smart person. If he is, then it will be difficult. Milord, don't worry. Wei Chou said, I have already asked around. Lin Shuang is greedy and ruthless. In the 6 months he has been guarding the Red Cliff province, he has killed soldiers and raped women. Moreover, he has a violent temper. Other than listening to He Song, he has no other good points, but He Song seems to have given him an order to defend the city and not leave. Then let's wait and see. Loyalty to He Song and achievement in killing the enemy. Which of these 2 choices will he choose? Haha, this subordinate understands. 2 days later, the Longdan army camp and Baizé mercenaries retreated 10 li and set up camp again. They had already shown signs of retreat. In the middle of the night, light snow fell from the sky. It came just in time. The curtain of snow seemed to boost the enemy's courage. There were dense forests on both sides of the official road. Lin Muyu personally led 100,000 elites to lie in ambush on both sides of the road, while Wei Chou led 100,000 people to guard the camp. The world quickly turned pale white. Everything seemed so quiet. If Lin Shuang came, then it would be a great merit. If not, then the 100,000 troops would freeze in the snow for a night. Lin Muyu's move could be said to be a huge gamble. Time passed bit by bit, and in the blink of an eye, it was already late at night. Everyone seemed a little anxious. Will they really not come? Lu Bai frowned. Don't talk nonsense, they will definitely come. Si Kongyao glared at him. Lin Muyu squatted in the grass on the snowy ground, looking into the distance. She held the Xinyuan sword in her hand and said, If they don't come, then I can only forfeit my salary for half a year to comfort the soldiers. Si Kongyao smiled sweetly. What if they come? It's best if they come. We have to make sure that Lin Shuang doesn't return alive. After wiping them out, we will immediately attack Phoenix Pass and use the Dragon Riders and Xingtian army's advantage to break through the city. And they waited until the sky was already beginning to brighten, and the snow had already covered their boots, but Lin Shuang still hadn't come. Situ Sen's hand that was holding the sword was already numb from the cold. That brat Lin Shuang can't be that cowardly, right? If he doesn't even dare to come, then what kind of battle is he going to fight if he's so cowardly? Don't worry, we're almost there. Lin Muyu suddenly smiled. Big bro sensed it? N5 li out. Situ Sen was overjoyed. All troops be on guard. Don't take action yet. Wait until the cannons sound from the camp, and then we'll slaughter our way out. No one is allowed to make the first move. Everyone said in a low voice, yes. Sure enough, not long after, the sound of hooves could be heard. On the official road in the distance, densely packed cavalry galloped over. There seemed to be about 20,000 cavalrymen, and the rest were infantry. They were marching at an extremely fast speed, majestically. It seemed like Lin Shuang had really gone all out, preparing to deal a fatal blow to the Longdan army camp. Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel elated. She laughed in a low voice and said, We didn't wait for nothing this night. We actually caught such a big fish. This is great. The faces of the generals were also filled with joy. The enemy's front quickly passed through, heading straight for the main camp. Not long after, the sound of cannons could be heard from the main camp, and then the sound of killing rose into the sky. They're moving out. Lin Muyu turned around and mounted her horse. In a low voice she shouted, Si Kongyao will lead the troops to cover the rear. Situ Sen and Situ Shui will attack from the left and right. Completely surround them for me. Don't let a single one escape. 200,000 soldiers were more than enough to surround 70 to 80,000 soldiers. Lin Muyu personally led the cavalry of the Longdan army camp to attack. Their target was the infantry of the enemy. Instantly they were like a tiger that had entered a flock of sheep. They slaughtered their way through as if there was no one there. However, the moment the ambush started, the morale of Lin Shuang's troops had already collapsed. They had no intention to fight at all and fled in all directions. Only the 20,000 wolf soldiers personally led by Lin Shuang were the real elites. They took out their arrows, aimed, and killed hundreds of Wei Chao's cavalry in the blink of an eye. However, Wei Chou was too fast and they were about to engage in a close combat. In the crowd, Lin Shuang was wearing a dark red armor. The sword in his hand was gleaming coldly, and his body was surrounded by the sacred energy. He roared, "Fight! The wolf soldiers will never surrender." A group of cavalrymen roared in unison. Their faces became very ferocious. Green veins popped up on their faces and dense hair grew on their skin. Fangs even protruded from their mouths. It was as if they had turned into wild beasts. Indeed, they were like a pack of wolves. So this is the power of sacrifice? Wei Chou raised his hand and shot an arrow, directly piercing the throats of 3 wolf soldiers. He sneered and said, "That's all? Kill them all, don't leave a single one alive." The cavalry of the Longdan army camp charged forward at high speed, and the sound of killing shook the heavens. Although the wolf soldiers were strong compared to the troops of the Longdan army camp, their well-trained tactics were too messy, and they could not unleash their full power. Their sharp claws could only leave marks on the armor of the soldiers of the Longdan army camp, but they could not pierce through their bodies. On the contrary, their bodies were quickly cut into pieces by the cavalry. Blood quickly spread and the messy snow was dyed red. After a bloody battle, the 20,000 wolf soldiers refused to retreat and were finally killed. However, most of the infantry were defeated and begged for mercy, becoming prisoners of the Longdan army camp. After daybreak, Wei Chou led a group of cavalry to attack Fenghuang Pass. Xing Tian's army descended from the sky and threw Lin Shuang's head off the city wall. Immediately, the morale of the soldiers in the city was thrown into chaos, and almost without bloodshed, Fenghuang Pass was captured. By noon, the flag of the Kingdom of Shang had been replaced by the royal flag of the purple Yinghua flower. However, in the afternoon, the eastern side of Fenghuang Pass had been sealed off. When Yisong received the news, he led 150,000 soldiers over. In addition, there were also 100,000 soldiers from the Prairie Blazing province, making a total of 250,000. An hour later, the wolf soldiers shot the letter of challenge into the city, and it quickly reached Lin Muyu's hands. She opened the letter of challenge, and the handwriting on it was vigorous and forceful. It seemed to be a letter written by Yisong himself. Yuqin traitors have invaded, and the heavens are angry and the people are resentful. I heard that the mighty person under me is willing to hunt with me in the Milan forest, and I hope that you will wash your neck clean before beheading me. Si Kongyao looked at the letter of challenge and her face flushed red. She stomped her feet in anger. "How dare you?" Lin Muyu glanced at her. "Why are you so angry?" Chapter 1167. Yisong's army of 250,000 men attacked Fenghuang Pass, but Fenghuang Pass was a strong city and Lin Muyu took it down without shedding a single drop of blood. The fortress was very intact and there was no problem in defending it. Moreover, from the first day Lin Muyu had already made preparations to defend it. The rations in Fenghuang Pass were enough for 200,000 men to use for 5 days. It was not too late to immediately send a letter to Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi to prepare rations from Qinshan City. At dusk, the battle ended and the attacking army gradually dispersed, leaving only the devastated city walls and densely packed corpses. A general success was built on 10,000 bones. In this battle, Yisong had left at least 10,000 corpses, but it did not shake Phoenix Pass in the slightest. The cold wind blew. Lin Muyu held onto the cold battlements as she looked at the enemy camp in the distance outside the city and said, "It is not a long-term plan to go on like this. Calculating the arrows used today, there should be at least 200,000 to 300,000, right?" At the side, Si Kongyao nodded her head and said, "Only more and no less." "How many arrows do we have left?" "There are still around 500,000 left. In one day we have used almost half." Wei Chou said worriedly, "Tonight we must go out of the city to clean up the battlefield. At the very least we must pull back the arrows that were shot." "Not only that." Lin Muyu sighed, "I saw that many arrows were broken after they were shot out. We still need to make new arrows. How many people in the army know how to make arrows?" "Most of them only have a rough understanding, but there are not many who can make fine arrows. Most of the arrows that we brought were made by the archery masters of the Ministry of War." Wei Chou smiled. "Forgive me for speaking bluntly, but if the soldiers were to make arrows, the lethality would at least be reduced by half or perhaps even more." Lin Muyu frowned. "Yao, are there any local archery masters?" "Yes. Si Kongyao gave a definite answer, saying, "The Blackstone Empire has always been militaristic, and many of the people in the prefectural cities rely on the military to make a living. Every prefectural city has at least 100 arrow craftsmen, swordsmiths and the like. If brother needs them, I will immediately send people to invite these arrow craftsmen over, but the remuneration cannot be low. They are a group of people who make a living by making arrows." "No problem." Lin Muyu turned around and said, "When I came here, I saw a large bamboo forest on the hillside behind us. This bamboo forest can be cut down and used as tree trunks for arrows. Go and do it, the more the better, the faster the better." "Don't worry." Si Kongyao blinked her eyes and said with a smile, "An archery master and 2 apprentices can make at least 100 arrows a day. I will invite all the archery masters in the nearby prefectural cities, and they can make at least 200,000 arrows a day for us. Let's give them the payment from Thousand Mountain City's treasury." "All right." Si Kongyao turned around and left, while Lin Muyu once again looked into the distance. "My lord, are you planning to wear down the morale of Hisong's wolf soldiers? Otherwise, with your personality, you would never adopt a defensive strategy." Wei Chou asked with a burning gaze. Lin Muyu laughed bitterly. "That's right, you saw through me. You've seen it too, Wei Chou. The individual strength of the wolf soldiers is just too strong. Previously, Lin Shuang only had 20,000 wolf soldiers, but he was able to wipe out 10,000 of our elites. If Hisong's 80,000 wolf soldiers were to swarm us, I suspect that even if the tens of thousands of cavalry in the Longdan army camp were to win, there wouldn't be many left." Wei Chou said with a faint smile, "My lord, you've thought it through. I also think so. It's really unwise to fight against the wolf soldiers. These wolf soldiers are greedy and belligerent. Their strength and speed are far better than ordinary people. Their only shortcoming is their intelligence. If we can keep them busy for a long time and wear out their patience, I'm afraid that these wolf soldiers will collapse on their own. Not only the wolf soldiers but also Hisong will lose his patience. When Hisong gives the order to retreat, it's time for us to go out of the city to chase after them." That's right." Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, "Now I'm looking forward to the arrival of the Second Corps of Lingdong Province as soon as possible. If the 90,000 armored demons of the demon tribe are here, why should I be afraid of these 80,000 wolf soldiers? Even if the army of armored demons arrives, the first reinforcement will be from Xishan Province, which is relatively close. We still have to rely on ourselves." Wei Chou broke Lin Muyu's fantasy. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. "I'm just thinking about it. I don't have a real plan." "My lord." Wei Chou suddenly wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. Lin Muyu looked at him and asked, "What's the matter?" "I want to ask you a question." "Say it, what do you want to ask?" Wei Chou took a step back and respectfully cupped his hands, saying, "My lord, we have now conquered Xishan Province and Liaishan Province. Soon we will naturally be able to conquer Hongyan Province and Liaoyuan Province. By then, half of the celestial pole continent will be in our hands. My lord, you have made outstanding contributions and your words in the army carry enormous weight. It can be said that you have the power to overturn the world. My lord, aren't you afraid of being criticized by the old officials in the imperial court?" "I know the relationship between my lord and Her Highness the Empress, but I still have to warn my lord that you must guard against the heart of a villain. The more power you have, the more angry and intolerable those who want you to step down from the altar will be." Lin Muyu was startled and said, "Wei Chou, you mean, those old officials in Lanyan City?" "Yes. I'm not worried about this. Divine Marquis Zheng Yifan is now loyal to Shaoyin, so he shouldn't set me up. But there are others. Among the 12 assistant ministers of the 6 departments, how many of them are really on your side? Although my lord has a godlike status and reputation in the army, in the eyes of those scheming people, you are just a boorish man who is good at fighting. After all, my lord is now a mortal and no longer a god. You need to consider the aftermath of all this." A lot of snow had fallen on Wei Chou's shoulders, and he stood majestically in the snow like a statue. He looked at Lin Muyu with clear eyes and said, "Recently, the informants I have arranged in Lanyan City have been sending back news. There is negative news about my lord and General Feng in Lanyan City, such as massacring the civilians of the celestial pole continent, privately hoarding mansions, cultivating their own forces in the army and so on. We must guard against these people. If we seize the whole world, I also don't want it to fall into the hands of those despicable and shameless people. I also don't want a famous general like my lord to suffer injustice." That won't happen. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and said, good brother, don't think so much. Think about it, Xiao Yin and Xiao Shi are both my wives, Siyu is Xiao Yin's little aunt, and Qin Lian is Yan's father. Almost all of Lanyan City belongs to us. No matter how those despicable people overturn the rivers and seas, they will never overturn the truth. Yes. Wei Chou nodded heavily and said, I am the commander of the Longdan army camp, and the 20 generals who are in charge of tens of thousands of soldiers are all old generals who have followed my lord for many years. This time I will never give up my military power. If anyone wants to hurt my lord, I will use the strongest army in the world to exterminate their whole family. Lin Muyu's eyes couldn't help but warm up. She turned around and sat on the cold battlement, holding her head. She felt so uncomfortable that tears almost fell down. Your Excellency, what's wrong with you? Wei Chou was stunned. Lin Muyu looked up at the flying snow in the sky and said, Wei Chou, I hope the way of heaven still exists. Otherwise, if you and I are both mortals for the rest of our lives, I will order you to be killed when we return to Lanyan City. Wei Chou was silent, but he seemed to have guessed that Lin Muyu would say such a thing. He said softly, Your Excellency, are you worried that I will eventually lead to a disaster because of my military power? Yes. Lin Muyu looked at him indifferently and said, In the future, it will be the Congress that will be in charge of the world in Lanyan City. The Congress will never tolerate people like you. In order to avoid disaster, I can only kill you. So don't force me, Wei Chou. When that day comes, let go of your military power, let go of everything. You and I, as brothers, will leave this trouble. Wei Chou knelt on the ground with one knee firmly, tears welling up in his eyes. I just don't want to see a famous general like you suffer injustice. I'm just a pawn on your chessboard. I never thought that your Excellency would treat me as a brother. No, you have always been. You have been since we were in the Eagle's Nest camp. You are the most trustworthy brother. Lin Muyu helped him up and said, Remember, don't be obsessed with power and wealth. They will devour you like a whirlpool. In the future, when we succeed, you and I, plus Feng Jixing and Situ Sen, will take our families and leave this whirlpool of power. There are many places in the world where we, Xiaoyao, can live freely. Yes, thank you, Your Excellency. Wei Chou gritted his teeth and said, I, Wei Chou, will never hold a military power for myself. I will be loyal to the Empire and to our friendship for the rest of my life. Don't say so much. Situ Sen has just ordered the dead horses to be roasted. Come in and drink with me to warm up. It's spring, but it's still so cold. Yes, it's really cold. On the 18th of January, a row of light cavalry appeared in the snow, holding the purple Yinghua imperial flag. Amidst the wind, a winged person fluttered down and chattered something. The leader of the cavalry did not say much. He took out a letter from his bosom and said, Please deliver this to Commander Feng Jixing. The army will arrive after nightfall. The winged person hid the letter and flew away. In Shiping Prefecture, Feng Jixing, who had received the letter, could not help but laugh happily. Has Qian Feng arrived? Xiang Yu asked. Yes. Feng Jixing handed the letter to Xiang Yu. Xiang Yu glanced at it and said, It is indeed Qian Feng's handwriting, but, Commander, are you sure it is not forged? It must be Qian Feng's handwriting. Look at how he addressed Yangshang. For words, lightning-throwing Tower Mao, are enough to prove everything. Why? Because you once scolded Qian Feng like this, and Qian Feng, that dumb roe deer, only knew what it meant 8 years later when he submitted to the Empire. At that time, he still thought that you was praising him for his military strategy. Send the 3 armies and have a good rest. Prepare for the decisive battle with Yangshang tomorrow morning. Yes, Your Excellency. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.